working. Let me just make sure.
We'll get going in a second. Suleiman's just wrapping up. And he's going to be joining. That was the interview with Lieutenant Colonel Kwiatkowski. I hope I said her name correct. So it's good. Welcome to Gary, and we'll get going in a second. Oh God, wrapping up. That's the YouTube. He's going to be joining. That was the interview with Lieutenant Colonel. Oh, you don't want to hear me twice. Welcome to Gary and Andrew and Cyrus and Andy.
Wait, why are we hearing me
everybody.
twice? Is the audio working? Oh yeah, it is. Oh my God, that's scary. You don't want to flipping. One's bad enough, bro. One is bad enough. Okay, it's working. Okay, cool. Flipping hell, that's a nightmare. That. What did I do to deserve that? Okay. We're back on this first then. Sorry, Beatrix. Back to you.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. You know you love hearing it twice, Suleiman, right? That was a good interview. Although I'm not sure I agreed when she said Trump's jealous that he didn't think of the Strait of Hormuz first. It almost makes it sound like had Trump have thought of it first, he could have just gone in there. He couldn't have just gone in there. That wouldn't have happened. But yeah, welcome. So Trump tacoed today. I think the space is glitching, guys, because I see Cyrus and Gary just glitching out and then reconnecting. It's really bad, the space today. So I don't know what's going on with it. Are they back up? Yeah.
Yeah, they're already
Gary,
up.
how
They're
are you?
already up. But Gary's
Yeah.
back up. Cyrus is coming up as well. I wanted to hear from Gary as well. Gary, what's happening? This must have given you. This must be the most exciting day for you since the war started.
Why? Why would that be?
Because Iran has said that now they're no longer going to be using. No, basically, if anyone wants to navigate through the Strait of Hormuz, that you will not be able to get insurance. Basically, the insurance isn't going to be through Lloyd's of London or City of London. They're going to insure it themselves, and the only way to pay for it is through Bitcoin.
Exclusive?
That's what they've said at the moment. Yeah, unless things change, but that's what it is at the moment. Yeah.
Was there a report out from them stating that, like, that's their position, or is this just...
No, that's it. It's a report out for, and that's why I've got Simon coming on the show later on, because obviously all the Bitcoin guys are super excited.
Yeah. I don't think that most certainly will bring up an interesting topic, which is see the problem with crude oil is you can't encrypt it. Like crude oil is really the currency. Like the currency is becoming crude, um, and the surrogate is the dollar and all these other currencies. But the point I'm trying to make, you don't stop a barrel of crude because you can't encrypt it. Therefore, you can't enforce an embargo. You can't really tag a barrel of crude oil with a DNA sampling of, okay, that's from an embargoed country. Problem is, you can do that on Bitcoin. And I've been asking this question a long time, which is, hey, if I wanted to trade Bitcoin from Iran, how's the U.S. government going to look at me like accepting money from Iran in Bitcoin? Is that Bitcoin going to be allowed to be used, or is it going to be tainted? Is it going to be soiled? Because this is specific encrypted digital asset. This is not a some cash that you can't track, right? Or crude you can't track, but everything else is pretty trackable. So I don't know why they would want to be that. You've noticed the first question I asked you, hey, is that exclusive to Bitcoin? Because I would think they'd be happy to accept US dollars, right?
I'm not sure about that because I think maybe they are not trying to use dollars, isn't it? Because that'll benefit America.
Well, it's the tracking point, really. Be very interesting to hear from some other people, but you know, if you're Iran, do you really want to use something that can be so easily tracked? I mean, chain analysis will be all over it tomorrow. There's 3 companies. I've got an interest in a company that does this for, you know, this is their deal. So now we have Bitcoin coming from a region that is not liked or loved by the United States. What happens? The price is down. We're down 76,800 right now. Uh, Bitcoin's kind of dumped from its 82 or 80 grand that it hit just maybe last week. So it's not, the Bitcoin's not responding positively to this news, but I'd like to see the actual, you know, statement by Iran and what they expect to do, because we've had a lot of false calls. I mean, there's still people that believe that the United States could put Bitcoin on its strategic reserve. Um, and I don't see that. I just think Bitcoin's too small for that right now. So it tends to be a lot of hopium in this industry. And I just question, hey, does it really make sense for Iran to do this? Because they would rather barter and trade, right? With stuff no one can track, I would have thought.
Yeah, that's a great point. That sorry, was I Beatrix? Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point. I think that's been the thing about Bitcoin, right? That it is trackable.
So it's horrible for if you want to stay anonymous, it's horrible. Bitcoin's the worst thing.
Exactly.
I mean, really. Very very easy to manage. The on if you're going to get in and out of the system. Now, if you're going to just go live in the middle of fucking nowhere, but see, that's not what this is going to be. These people are going to want to convert Bitcoin. Now, maybe they go, okay, this is a extortion event anyway. Who cares? We're going to put Bitcoin on our balance sheet because this is free money. In the end, it's not going to be free. Okay, it's going to cost whoever's doing this a shitload of money to make sure that that area stays safe. I mean, this is what you're paying the toll for, right? You're paying the toll so that the highway is nice and clean and clear.
Yeah, exactly. And we have got some more.
But it's excuse me, but it's leaking all over the place, right? The Hormuz is far from closed. It's closed to a few players,
Yeah.
correct?
No, no, I agree. I agree. It's basically it's weird. It's like it's not close to Iran or its allies, but largely it's closed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, uh, listen, I think, you know, I have not changed my mind on this, and I suspect you haven't either. I think these guys are going to, you know, they're going to go all the way. We're in for a fight and a long one, or restructuring.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I've got some more breaking news before I go. We'll just continue this conversation. Is the three people have now been killed. This is in addition to the shooters in the attack at the mosque in San Diego. I believe it's a San Diego mosque, but I could be wrong on that one. So three people have been killed. Three of them, I believe it's either one teacher and two children, or two teachers and one child, is what I saw. So people, a lot of deaths and then a lot of injuries from this shooting. No information on who the shooter is at the moment. Obviously, we'll continue to give you that information as and when we receive it. So that's the latest on that. But yeah, Gary, I mean, I get your point about Bitcoin. I think it's maybe, or it's one or two things. Either, as you said, there's going to have to be a concurrent method of payment, or B, it is Iran basically believing that they're going to come out rosy at the end of this and they'll be able to trade in Bitcoin as per the way they want. If from my understanding, I think Jordan and Sam and the rest of them mentioned this, and Robert and Darkside, that does Iran have like the biggest Bitcoin mining place, or one of the biggest ones in the world? And so that could be the second reason why they're saying it. They feel like they're going to come out ahead in all of this, and that is going to be the actual preferred method. Or it's going to be, as you said, a secondary dual method with it. Guys, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, I was
Yep.
on mute.
Yeah,
I
you're
wanted just 1 second. I'll be less than 1 minute, but I was on unmuted. There could be a third or fourth thing too. Iran seems to be doing a very good job of showing the whole world that they're coming into the 21st century with some of these cartoons. Like, it's showing me a very different Iran than I've ever seen. They could be trolling Trump too. Okay, they could be just fucking with Trump, going, "Hey, by the way, we're only taking Bitcoin," because it just doesn't make sense that they would be exclusive to that. But I wouldn't leave that one out, that they're just trolling him, because they seem to be doing quite a bit of it. I love somebody's response to that. I might be reading too much into it. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, we'll get Simon on later, and I'm going on for an interview actually about this, so maybe we'll definitely break that down and ask him the questions on that. Let's go to I just want to
Just
welcome Andrew.
Suleiman, I just want to add something really quickly. So I sent it to you, I think, and I think it might have been on your page, but you might want to post it again. But just when Gary's saying about the trolling, so they set up an official account of the Persian Gulf Strait Authority on X today, and that's what they've called it. An official account of the Persian Gulf Strait Authority. It's had 3 posts on it so far, only following 12 people, but had 44,000 people follow it. So obviously following Gali Larijani, Galibaf, the late Supreme Leader Khamenei's account, the ones that you'd expect it to follow. And there's actually 4 posts on it, 3 in Arabic, in Arabic, I think, and 1 in English. The one in English says, "In the name of God, the official X account of the Persian Gulf Strait Authority, #PGSA, is now live. Follow us for real-time updates on the Hormuz Strait operations and latest developments." So that was the English one was the just a translation of their very first post. And then the very first post was in Arabic, and it says, "In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. The official account of the Persian Gulf Waterway Management on X begins operations to provide information on the activities of this organization." And then they did 2 more. They did a little thread with 2. It's not got blue tick verification, I don't believe, but they did a little kind of 2 tweets, and they said the Persian Gulf Strait Authority is the legal entity. So the Persian Gulf Strait Authority, PGSA, is the legal entity and representative authority of the Islamic Republic of Iran for managing the passage and transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Navigation within the introduced boundaries of the Strait of Hormuz, which were previously determined by the armed forces and authorities of the Islamic Republic of Iran, is contingent upon full coordination with these entities and passage without permission will be considered illegal. So that's all they've got there so far. That's all they've got there. They've got 44,100 people following them, and they haven't got a blue tick verification. So yeah, that's interesting. I just wanted to mention that, Suleiman. We can go to, who are you going to go to?
Just go to Andrew. Let's see what his thoughts are.
Andrew, what do you think?
Hey, I'm so glad you read that. Thank you, Suleiman, Beatrix. First time I ever heard Colonel Kowalski. Sorry, I put her Substack. I follow her on Substack. Very interesting. Yeah, I agree, Beatrice. I don't know about the comment on Trump, but very good analysis. I'm really glad Suleiman brought her on. Really want to hear from her again. Yeah, Beatrice, I'm glad you read that. And adding on to what Gary's saying, it sounds like Iran's really gotten stepped up their game, saying, hey, we're now playing the game. We're now a global power player here. Here's the rules. Here's the new game. You want to do business in this area? This is how we're doing business now. And the United States right now is very quiet. And I'm wondering, okay, how much longer? I still am thinking there will be some kinetic action. I don't know when. I would have thought it would have been last weekend. Well, this past when Trump came back from China. But isn't it tomorrow? I believe they're meeting. They're having that big powwow. I think Trump's going to sit down. I think they're going to do something, maybe. I don't know. I'm shocked that the United States is going to just completely say, well, we're backing down. We're leaving the area. Yep. Okay. This is the way we're doing business now. We're in unprecedented times. I think everyone is just wondering what we've never seen anything like this before, ever. But I'm so glad to see Iran really in the position where they're able to say, hey, this strait belongs, we have control over this. I know the Oman's in there, but still, I'm glad that they're doing that. They need to exert they need to go, I believe, nuclear. They need to be a nuclear power. That way, the world will understand that they have that position. And yeah, we'll see where it's going from here. But great, keep fighting the good fight. Great to see the YouTube warriors, the moral resistance. They're great. Their commentary and stuff. All of us together, keep fighting the good fight. Love you all. We're in this together in this psychological warfare.
Yeah,
This
thanks, Andrew.
Iran Bitcoin thing looks like it's a real thing. I mean, it's professional. It's very impressive, actually. I still would question, though. I'm not sure that helps them with a freeze issue, but it's very progressive. I mean, I still think there's a little bit of troll in this. They're really stepping their game up. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, Gary,
Where
you
are you
heard
looking at it,
Beatrice, right?
Gary?
Oh, go ahead, Sue,
What's
Beatrice.
that?
Yeah, Gary, you heard
No,
what
no.
Beatrice read?
Yeah, yeah, and I started looking at some other stuff. I mean, there's most everyone's presuming this is a real deal. There's a little flyer out on. I'll try to put it in the post.
Nice.
They're looking to
And
generate 10 billion in revenue a year forever. It's 27 Bitcoin right now at current pricing. It's 27 Bitcoin per ship.
Oh, man, there you go. Hey, you want to play?
Hey,
You pay.
that would be the most successful Bitcoin accumulation strategic activity on planet Earth, man. I mean, but listen, think about it this way, okay? If you were the mafia or anybody like that, would you use Bitcoin?
Why not? That's the
No.
future.
Because it's so trackable, mate.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
everything's completely
see,
tracked. It's a bad idea to use crypto for like criminal stuff.
yeah. So like, this is a big deal, man. The Minister of Foreign Affairs actually announced this, so they actually put somebody in position to make a statement on it. But see,
So wait a second.
that's the question I ask. Hey, if it was the mafia, you wouldn't use this because you're going to get stopped somewhere.
So let's be. So 1 second. Just a question to you there, Gary. So are you saying, and again, this is genuinely asking, are you saying that essentially you got the US government is like a mafia over Bitcoin, where you cannot
No, I didn't mean it that
I know
way.
you didn't. I know when you were using the word mafia, you meant something else. But actually, I'm
No, he meant it the other
using
way
your
though,
word.
Suleiman.
No, I meant it the other way around specifically.
No, I understand the context of what you're using it. I'm using
Uh,
your word and then reframing your word, and I'm saying that
and trying to confuse the audience and think I'm saying something different.
no. Okay, so if that's what you think, I'll rephrase. I'll say. So your claim is, guess what? Well, actually, what you're saying is completely wrong as well, because you're trying to frame somehow that Iran is like a mafia.
No,
That
no. It was a
No, he's saying the
hypothetical question
opposite of
though,
that,
because
yeah.
I
Suleiman.
think this is an extortion event. Let's be clear, okay? A toll is an extortion, and it's a way to say, hey, I'm going to pay for the roads. Otherwise, they're going to be dangerous. So you can call it a toll, you can call it whatever, but you're not getting out unless you're paying the way. So
His protection money.
yes, exactly. So if I use
Yeah.
that scenario, which is insurance is kind of like, if I use that scenario, um, if I were the mafia or if I was a criminal or if I was someone trying to get away with something, I would not use Bitcoin. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so first of all, it's not extortion event. It is basically they're taking control over the shores that they have a right to do so on. That's the first thing. But what I'm saying is, so you were rephrasing like that. Now I'm using a totally different framing for the audience, and I'm saying based on, and I'm asking the question because the way you framed it is in
Yeah.
the sense you're saying that is the US basically is the US a mafia over Bitcoin, and what I mean by that is it the case that what me, you, Russia, China, Iran, none of these countries can use Bitcoin
No,
in
that's
the
not
sense of
true.
if they were to
No, no,
use it, America has the possibility to taint
no,
that
No,
Bitcoin.
nobody can
no.
control Bitcoin, Suleiman.
One
So
person needs to speak.
if
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
if anything, okay, the United States. This is only really relevant to U.S. citizens who are holding Bitcoin or acquiring Bit. Let's say I was to acquire Bitcoin from Iran right now. Okay,
Right.
the question is because Iran is sanctioned, that Bitcoin has. Let's say it's encrypted number 1234. Okay,
Yeah.
1234 is now in Gary Cardone's presence. When I go to sell it, can
Hmm.
I? Can I sell it or have I just acquired a criminal asset?
That's
That's
what I'm
all I'm
asking
saying,
you.
okay?
So who decides that one, two,
Well,
three?
if you have an embargo and you're a US citizen and you have tainted Bitcoin, you're probably not going to keep them, dude.
So what you're basically, if I've understood this right, what you're basically saying is the US can do this for US citizens and anyone who wants to use the US market. And similarly, UK can do this for UK citizens. Europe can do this for Europe citizens. So essentially, you could do this for your own citizens on Bitcoin and
Sure.
freeze you. So could somebody say, could
But you only know it like this is why so many coins are moving through the exchanges because once they end up in the exchange, they're cleaned up. And that's why I use the word extortion because there's a lot of weird shit going on in this industry. I mean, they're trying to get all these old Bitcoin, all of them, okay, 99.9% Bitcoin have some type of taint on them, whether it was a drug deal or, I mean, listen, that's how all industries are created. Okay, so all of it's tainted. It's some way, some of it doesn't even have a source of where the funds were from. Okay, so like you're going to have a hard time like saying, okay, the first coin has never been involved in anything bad. You know, it doesn't have a mark on it. You understand? There's some of these coins have marks on them, right?
but
They're waiting to see the wallets trigger light up, and once that happens, which is when you want to cash the Bitcoin, once that happens, if an Iranian is exchanging Bitcoin with another Iranian, probably no problem. It's when you want to come back into the US dollar system or hit Wall Street and somebody says, oh, wow, we've seen that this coin was on a list. That's the only point I'm trying to make. I
but
wouldn't use Bitcoin. I would use cash or gas or
but just on this Bitcoin point, so the US government could decide, listen, Gary Cardone has 20 Bitcoins as an example. We are now gonna taint those Bitcoins and freeze them or whatever. So the US government could do that.
well, the US government if they say, okay, Gary is a terrorist, bro, they're going to come get everything. And I can say, well, I'm not going to share my seed phrase. I lost it. And they're going to be like, well, cool, dude. And you're going to be having 3 squares a day on the US government until your memory comes back. And like, if that's the way people want to live for self-custody, it's like, you're going to give them your data. I mean, that is the country. I think every country's like that, right? If you get thrown in prison. So that's really the issue. Okay, I can be a tough guy in prison for 9 years, but I have been involved at some level with these coins that were owned by a terrorist. Now I didn't know it. I bought them. This is the beauty of Bitcoin, peer to peer, right? So I'm at a party one night. Guy says, "Hey, man, you want to do a deal? I'll give you some Bitcoin for cash." This is a hypothetical story. I personally wouldn't take the Bitcoin because every one of these guys have always offered me a discount. And that's the part I don't understand. Like, why are you offering me a discount? Bitcoin's Bitcoin, dude.
Wait,
So, you know what I'm saying?
I got an answer to Suleiman's. I think what he's getting at is, so Suleiman, Bitcoins are not like cash dollar bills that have serial numbers that can be tracked. So the wallets can be tracked, and you can track the movement of Bitcoin from wallet to wallet. So the United States government could say all of these wallets that are associated with sanctioned countries, these are all blacklisted wallets. No American exchange is allowed to transact with these wallets, things like that. The problem is, I don't know if that would ever be effective because creating new wallets is extremely easy. So you could always just launder them through other wallets and stuff like that and get by whatever the restriction is. The Bitcoins themselves, there isn't like a discrete Bitcoin. People will do Bitcoin transactions that are like 0.0001 Bitcoin and stuff like that. So those are not traceable or trackable. It's just the movement of them through the different wallets that is. So if you
Hey,
have,
excuse me, but every one of those are trackable. Okay, when I buy 10 Bitcoin, I don't really buy 10 Bitcoin. I literally will probably have 3,000 transactions hit me, and every one of those is a transaction from Bob. Now I don't know who Bob is, but it's an encrypted, distinct
yeah,
Bitcoin or
but you're
fraction
transacting
of a
with the
Bitcoin.
wallets. So all of these wallets are gathering together their pieces of
Yeah,
Bitcoin and transacting them
but
with you. But the
But it
actual
is
things that are
trackable and
moved,
auditable, though. That's the difference. It's auditable within, a day. You cannot do that with US dollars. Like the serial number hunt
yeah,
is a
but you're
forever.
but you see that if I'm a US citizen and I end up with Bitcoin in my Bitcoin wallet, and the US government says, well, those Bitcoins at one point transacted through like 17 different wallets and we can trace them back to the IRGC. I can be like, well, that's your problem. I don't care because I didn't do anything wrong. You have to prove that I actually knew that I was transacting with an entity, and I wasn't even doing that because you admit yourself that it was like 17 transactions away, like separated from me. So because of that, I don't think the US government could really police it in any effective way.
I guess the larger question on this is if the US government could just get your wallet and freeze it, then how is that any different than a bank account? They can just freeze your bank account.
Exactly.
Well, even if they do that, though, Suleiman, if they try to file, they have to file a forfeiture action in the federal court, and then they have to actually prove that you were doing something that was illegal. So if they don't have that proof, they can be an irritation to you. They can be a nuisance. They can freeze your assets for a period of time. But ultimately, they have to go to court. And if they cannot show that you broke a law, then they have to just release it. And they're not usually in the business of wasting a lot of time and money and finite resources on trying to just annoy people when they know they can't win.
I didn't mean to throw the whole conversation. It's just a question that I have. I don't know why they would want that so trackable. That's why I said, hey, I wonder if this is a bit trolling, them just saying, fuck off, dude. And look, they can get away with this because the US is only a part of Bitcoin. This is the beauty of Bitcoin. It really doesn't matter what one government does. my question was simply, wow, why would they be exclusive with Bitcoin? Because they could use
Well, it's the most
many other
common one.
things.
But Gary, they could take, so for example, if they want this to be untrackable, it's going to be trackable as long as it's in Bitcoin, but they could take the Bitcoin that they have in Iran and they can use that in
Totally.
their trade with
Totally.
Russia and China and
Yeah.
give the Bitcoin to them, and then they can convert it into other assets.
Yeah, I was going to say that you can take Bitcoin, you could buy any coin, you could exchange for US dollars or yuan or anything. It's extremely fluid. I mean, I move my Bitcoin around and change it. I mean, I don't understand. Gary, I see what you're saying, but there's always a way around it. There's always a way around it.
What Gary's saying is correct. He's talking about forensic accounting, and because most of the Bitcoin is transacted on these exchanges. Now the U.S. and other large governments, the EU, have all regulated this. It's just another asset. But what it boils down to is not on the U.S. side or any of the Western companies.
Hey guys, let's remember, okay, this is the blockchain. Okay, like it's on the blockchain, and like you can't escape it. It does. You cannot escape it. I have the ability to go in and audit it. Like I own a company that can tell you what you did yesterday afternoon, and like you're not hiding. That's all I'm saying. Is like, oh wow, that was very weird that they would say exclusive, because I don't think it's going to be exclusive. I think you're going to see oil become a barter product.
And more importantly, because it comes down to OFAC regulations, OFAC will hammer down on the companies that are actually paying the toll, right? Right now, because it's so new, I think they're not really clamping down, but it'll be very evident who's abiding by Iran's new toll system and who's not. Because of the IRGC connection, they can say, hey, you're transacting with a terrorist designated organization. And then those companies could be, and those shipping companies or oil companies can be sanctioned. But then we'll be in the same situation, and it will impact the global energy market. So there's no solution here, right? I mean, it's the U.S. cannot stand this new reality. So they need to make a deal. And if they don't make a deal, Iran will probably go nuclear and maintain control of the Strait of Hormuz indefinitely, right? So like this is a real crossroads, and Trump just does not want to expose the L. He has a strategic loss on his hand, and he keeps buying more time with these outrageous, communiques on Truth Social saying, "Oh, it's the Emir of Qatar this time. Who's the next time? The Prince of Brunei. Who's the next one? Is it the President of Djibouti?"
I'm waiting for him, Cyrus. I'm waiting for him to say, "Oh, we were going to take action, but then the Pope asked me in the name of Christianity not to go
Yeah,
there, so I decided to
he's
listen
gonna
to
run
the
the list
Pope."
low pretty soon. He's gonna call out Beatrix. Beatrix called me, and then Suleiman. He's gonna go down the list.
No, I'm going to go with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Pope, Cyrus.
Beatrice,
I
you're right
tell you, he's
about.
going
Not
to go
me,
with the Pope.
Cyrus. I'll be like, why? I'll be like, tackle Trump. Why you chatting nonsense for? But yeah, Beatrice, you're right.
They're going to go with the Pope. He's running out of people. I mean, he's used the Pakistan card so many times. Nobody bought that. Now he's used the GCC card. He's only got the Pope left. Literally, I decided that my Christian faith, I went to the Pope and the Pope said not to do it. So I decided to listen to the Pope. I give it another week. They gave me another 10-point plan. Now it's a 15-point plan. I mean, like literally, oh, do you know what? Look, nobody wants war, but Trump's making me lose the will to live, because the longer this delay goes on, the more he's getting paid. He's just filling his and Kushner's, and he's filling his own personal bank account. Oil companies are making trillions. People are paying. I was out today, and a friend of mine was on the phone, and she was like, I was like, damn, I just passed the gas station. I should have filled up. And then I looked at it and I was like, yeah, too many cars, allow it. I'll do it another day. And she was like, what is the fuel price down there? And I was like, do you know what? I said, I came and filled up, and I don't normally monitor the price, but I remember that because we'd spoken about it on the space, and Andrew will remember it. And I remember saying it had gone up. That was about what, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
It's gone up like another 55 pence since then. The people are really going to struggle with this, but you know what? It's fine. Oil companies are making money. They're filling Trump's pockets up. Trump's getting rich off it. He doesn't really care. He doesn't care, but he just needs that excuse, that kind of plausible kind of deniability of, do you know what? I could smash them, but somebody asked me not to. So I'm not doing it because somebody asked me not to. So I'm going to wait. And then I'm going to give Iran another chance. And I'm going to give Iran another chance. In the meantime, Iran's like, yeah, you know what? Here's our procedure we'll put in place. We've got our own insurance thing in place. We've got our X site set up now. You know, here's our official X site. You know, we're going to take the money in Bitcoin. Like, we're proceeding down this road. Come, daddy, stop us if you want to. Like, what the hell is going on with this situation?
And then when it reaches the point where it exceeds the threshold of pain, meaning the economy crash, Simon talks about that point, that 5%. And when that happens, I think that's when he may try some military action, blow some stuff up. Of course, nothing real will happen of it, saying, hey, we did it. We now won. We have another. We've gotten all their uranium enrichment. Who knows? But we're living, honestly, in unprecedented times. I know I keep saying that again. I think, thank God, though, I think the military leadership in the U.S. I'm speaking is basically given him this is a no, this is no, this is not going to happen, other than some stupid little incursion.
Yeah, so I'm obviously very irritated with Trump always going out on this. I said he should have actually moved forward a long time ago, because it's just going to be delay, and it just the Strait of Hormuz stays closed longer. But I think the reason that he's doing this, obviously, he's lying about, negotiations. The negotiations are going nowhere. The IRGC is not going to make a deal on anything like Trump's terms. But here's the thing. I think it is the GCC countries, one or more of them, that keeps telling him, like, no, 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 wait, we got some more interceptors coming from Israel. We got some more stuff coming from Ukraine. Give us a few days to bring it in and stuff. And I think that has happened repeatedly. And whenever someone asks him for delay so that they can get in more stuff, he, who already doesn't want to do this, uses that as an excuse and does a delay. But eventually it's going to run out, though. Eventually he is going to move forward, but it's going to be delay, a lot longer than it should have been. And then at the end of the day, when everything is done, they'll be like, well, wow, there would have been a lot less economic damage if he had just done this a long time ago.
Can you explain what moving forward looks like to you? What do you expect to be accomplished militarily?
Moving forward means that there's going to be an escalated bombing campaign against Iran.
It's not going to achieve what the desired outcome is. The issue is after 40 to,
I mean,
after
we'll
39
see when it happens.
after
We'll see
39
when
days.
I mean, your prediction, and we'll see. I think within a month we will know exactly what the outcome is.
No, so let's say it starts, right? But the issue is they had 39 days, right? So 39 days of continuous onslaught. They were only able to erode the forward missile system, the offensive arm of the Iranian missile force, by 15%. That's giving them a lot,
Yeah, I
15,
think
20%.
that's
So
wrong. That's absolute nonsense,
that's
Cyrus.
that
And
is our own
it's not
assessment.
true.
That is our own assessment. That's the
No, it's
CIA.
not our own assessment,
How are you
Cyrus. No, it's
blind to
not.
our own official
No, it's not. I
communications?
mean, they had a press conference with the Department of Defense and the Pentagon, and they said that Iran's missile forces were eroded like 80-90%.
And you
So
believe that?
that's not our assessment. What you're quoting is the 70% number that was from a single anonymous source, not even in the administration, quoted in a single article. So that's not reliable at all. Trump said it was garbage when he was confronted with it. And the Department of Defense said that they assessed it was something like 80-90%. They had a press conference about it a few days ago.
If it's 80-90% till the last days of the war, the volume of fire stayed consistent. It was not eroded. Every day, the last 15 days of the war, it was exactly the same amount of launches.
There's
So
a very
there's
tiny
no
amount,
evidence.
Cyrus. You're talking about like 10 missiles a day. Yeah. If you have a small amount left, you can keep the 10 missiles up a day for a while.
The 10 long-range missiles, much more shorter-range missiles, but those missiles carry over
It really wasn't that many shorter
pound.
range missiles, and it wasn't that many drones either.
One missile caused $30 billion in damage in Qatar and 3 years of repair. Right, so
I don't think that's true.
That is an official assessment. Go look, do your research.
I don't know what official assessment, but I don't think it's 30 billion for one missile. No.
Go look at it.
I've got a question for you, Manko, right? When you say you think it's the GCC saying on our hold off, we need to get all these interceptors from Ukraine, from, was it Ukraine and somewhere else you said? What makes you say that? Is that just your own hunch, or is that based on any evidence or any receipts, or is that just something that you think?
Well, it's based on his True Social post. So he says something that's not true, which is, oh, there's productive negotiation, so on. We all know that's not true. But he's saying it's based on, I mean, whatever the countries that he said. I have to scroll down and look. It was the UAE
Oh my God,
and
so you're
Saudi
actually
Arabia.
just believing his post? Like Manco,
No,
seriously? I thought you'd
Beatrix,
have
it's
some like
called
solid
reading.
receipts for it or something.
Beatrix, it's reading between the lines. So when he says in public that he has
He
been
doesn't draw
asked
any
by
lines,
these
Manco.
people, I'm sure he has been asked. He's not lying about that, because if he lied about that, they would come out and contradict him. So he's telling the truth about that, but the reason that he gives is not true. The real reason, which I'm sure they don't want him to reveal anyway, is because they're still trying to get more defensive weapons. So they're telling him to hold off until they feel like they have a better defense.
Okay, so what I would say to that is that he said a lot of stuff about the GCC countries before, right? Oh, you know, they egged us into this. They wanted it as much as anybody else. No, they didn't come out. The GCC countries have not come out and either confirmed or denied any of the nonsense he's been saying for 80 days now about them. I mean, he randomly quotes the GCC countries every second day.
But
They
Beatrix,
haven't come out.
there's an
No,
enormous
let me just
number of
finish this.
reports.
Let
It's
me
not
finish.
just
Let me
from
finish.
Trump himself.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying this particular point, right? Trump has made this point, and you're saying the GCC countries didn't come out and deny this. What I'm saying is for 80 days, they haven't come out and denied or confirmed anything that he said. And he said some really kind of, you know, questionable things, which could be true, could not
I
be
think
true,
they
but they
did.
haven't come.
I think
No, but
when he tried to do the reopening the strait and Iran shot at the UAE over that, I think they did come out and kind
yeah,
of denounce him in public.
Manco, when I say GCC, I'm not talking about Eastern Israel. Like UAE is not classed as that. I'm talking about Qatar, you know, Saudi. Like these are the countries. Those are the countries I'm talking about. Those are the ones that he mentions every couple of days. You know, Saudi wanted us to go into this war. Saudi begged us. Saudi's been egging us on. These are the things he said in the first like 20 days
I
or
mean,
something.
don't you believe
So
that anyway, though? Isn't that true? That the
I don't know,
GCC
you know,
countries
because let me
did,
tell you
like they
why. And
joined together with
yeah, but let
Israel
me
to.
just I don't know. Let me make my point, right? So here's the thing. My point is the first thing is they didn't confirm or deny any of these things. Okay, so park that for a side. The second thing is I'm thinking to myself, why? Like these are just questions. Okay, I don't have the answers for these. I don't have, but the questions in my mind is why would like the GCC countries, and I don't include the UAE when I'm talking in this context. Why would the GCC countries spend their money on interceptors to intercept Iranian missiles when those missiles are simply damaging American infrastructure, American bases that I actually do believe the GCC countries are damn happy to get out of their freaking country in the first place? Like, this is a golden ticket for them, and it's not even costing them anything. They never thought they'd see the day when those bases would leave their countries, and they're getting that free. It's happening for free. Iran is doing that job for them for free. So why would they go and get missiles for that? That's the first thing. The second thing is there's nothing stopping Trump from hitting key infrastructures in Iran. He's threatened to it a number of times, right? Energy infrastructure, for example. And Iran has said, you do that, and we will strike back at the GCC at their energy infrastructure because that's where your bases are. He still hasn't done it. So I think this is I don't think this is a delaying tactic because any interceptors or GCC have asked him or anything like that. If they were actually going to ask him, he's tacoed so many times. Pakistan didn't need any interceptors. Pakistan's not under attack. He used Pakistan the last, like, what, 5, 6, 8, 10, I've lost count times to taco out. He's only used the GCC down, probably because Pakistan said, can you just stop using our name, please? Because we never asked you. You ain't going to hit them, but you keep using our name. Can you find another reason to say no? So he's like, oh, cool, I'll just use the GCC. They ain't going to deny it anyway. And that's why I'm saying, literally, I'm expecting him to use the Pope. You heard it here, guys. He probably will use the Pope, and the Pope will probably stand in his pulpit and not confirm or deny either. I mean, this is just ridiculous, Manco. I don't even know what Trump's doing. I do know what he's doing. He's making a lot of money, and people are getting poorer. Let's see
So I
what this
think, yeah, so I think you did answer your own question, which is your part two
I don't
was
know what Trump's doing.
Iran said that they're going to attack GCC infrastructure if the US or Israel attacks their infrastructure. So obviously that is why the GCC needs the interceptors and defenses, because they already know that those attacks on their infrastructure are coming, because when the fighting starts again, it will be against Iranian infrastructure targets.
Mancos, did you not see
So if
the
that was
four bases that were like pretty much level to the ground? They were protected, right? So it's not that you're gonna get interceptor missiles
No,
and
they weren't. They were abandoned, empty buildings. So
no,
they
UAE
weren't.
got
but
so many hits
Cyrus,
on
that's
them.
not the
Qatar got
point.
hit. The interceptors
Yeah,
are not gonna protect the GCC. They'll protect some of the.
just 1 second, Cyrus. That's not the point. The point is, if the GCC are scared that their infrastructure is going to get hit and they need to wait for the interceptors, why haven't they stopped Trump before? Why didn't Trump say the last 15 times, I'm waiting because the GCC have asked me to wait? Why was it Pakistan? Why is the GCC mentioned for the first
I don't
time
think it
today?
was
I mean,
15 times. I think there was
whatever,
one
20
time
times,
that I
25.
remember
I've lost
where
count the amount of times he's tacoed
he
Manco.
said Pakistan asked him to.
One time is too many.
Loads
One
of
time is an
times.
embarrassment. One time is too many. He's done it like 3-4 times.
It is,
He's a laughing stock. I mean,
which is why he's
but
gotten made fun of
do
it
you
a
not
lot.
realize how like the rest of the world sees Trump? He is a laughing stock. He's not a man of strength. I mean, you keep holding him on this pedestal. He's an embarrassment for America. I mean, I don't know
I
why haven't
mean,
you
the rest,
why
I
haven't
don't
you
care
smelled the
what the rest
coffee
of
yet
the
on
world
this?
thinks of Trump,
Half
because
of
Trump doesn't
MAGA's
represent the
left.
rest of the world. He represents the United
Half of
States.
me, I
Yeah.
respect that to a point until it becomes destructive, right? You can't support a self-destructive president. You know, I admire your love of country. You know, I know it's real. I'm not questioning your character on that, but there is a limit for that. When your president becomes self-destructive and hurts your own country, that's when the limit is. That's why half of diehard MAGA left, folks that loved him to death. You know, because they realize they're sensible people that judge
Well,
him by his actions. You know, Trump is a loose cannon and he's compromised. So like, why can't you come to terms with that?
he's not that loose. He's a shrewd businessman, Cyrus. He's a businessman first, a president second. Let's go to trauma zones. I've not heard from him before, and then I'll come up
Just
to you,
before you
Andy. Trauma
go to
zones, jump in.
him, the important point
Yeah.
to know. I don't think the GCC countries asked him to pull out. I think this is just him blaming them. And a good example of that is if you look at the UAE and you look at a lot of their propagandists, all of them were super excited, thinking something's going to happen on Tuesday. They were doing the countdown. They were doing the, something's coming. There was all the paid shills of the UAE believed it. Something was going to happen, and so that Trump pulling out is an embarrassment for them, because if the UAE was attacked, it's either one or two things. Either the UAE was attacked by Iran or its allies, or it was a false flag. Either way, the result of that is UAE wants Iran to be hit. If it was Iran, they want the response. If it was themselves, they did such a big false flag on themselves for it to respond. Saudi Arabia also claimed that 3 drones hit them. So if these false flags are happening, they clearly want a response. And so I don't agree that Trump listened to them. I think Trump himself is afraid, because he knows, according to all the military analysts, that all of them have said it, all of them have predicted every single outcome, and it's been right, to be honest, up to now. Listen, Trump's got no other option, and so because he's got no other option, he's confused. He doesn't know what to do, and he's probably knows that he's probably been given a kind of parameters by which you can hit Iran by the Gulf states, in the sense of they've probably actually told him, don't hit the infrastructure because our infrastructure will be hit, just do more of the same. And so he's thinking, I'll do more of the same, then we completely depleted. So that's where he's stuck, I think. I don't, if I had I'm not saying it's 100%, but on the balances of probability, if I had to guess, I'd say it's highly unlikely he hits Iran's infrastructure, because that means the end of the GCC. And if it's the end of the GCC, that's the end of a lot of his wealth that's been accumulated into the GCC. He don't care about America, but he does definitely care about his own wealth. So I don't think he's listened to the GCC in terms of not attacking. I believe they wanted to attack, but in this kind of controlled method, which he knows is just going to harm him. But back to you, Beatrix. Beatrix? Okay, let's go to trauma.
I'm here. Yeah, no, I
What's
agree.
the,
Look, he's making money, and I don't believe for a second that the GCC asked him to, because if they were concerned, the GCC, about their personal safety and they wanted Trump to hold off, they'd have asked him a long time ago. And they never did. Otherwise, he would have said it. You know, he's not very discreet either, to be honest with you. So let's go to trauma zones. Trauma zones, thanks for waiting. Jump in. I've seen a lot of emojis firing at you, trauma zones, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, of course. I won't be long. I just wanted to clarify that if I wanted to hear straight from the Department of Defense propaganda mouthpiece, material information about the world and what's happened in the war so far, I would just go turn into Fox News. So Mango, maybe you need to go update where you get your information from, or maybe get out of that American exceptionalism bubble that you live in.
Dude, a guy said it was official from the U.S., so I said no.
You're
this is what the official from the U.S. thing is.
Full of shit,
so
Mango. Stop spreading American.
You don't know what
government
you're
propaganda.
talking about. You're just
Stop spreading
obviously
American
one of these
government
crazy
propaganda.
people who thinks Fox
And you're
News is
obviously a
bad.
retard, and you have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, wait, one second, guys. Trauma zones. Please just keep it. Don't make personal attacks. Yeah, just you can speak and disagree with Manco on.
I mean, he's wrong. He's repeating U.S. government propaganda and passing it off as truth. I just came in to say that he's full of shit.
No, that is not what I did, you idiot. Someone else made a representation about what the U.S. official position was, and I said, no, it's this other U.S. official position. I didn't say whether it's true or not. I said that's what the position was. Learn to understand English.
Oh, I understand English. Thank you. But you should probably get your information elsewhere besides where the U.S. government tells you, you know? You're full of shit, bro. I understand what you're trying to say, but you even passing that off as
triggered and you're low IQ. Thank you for playing.
Okay, whatever you say, bro. That's all I want to say. He's full of shit.
Glad
to have upset you.
Trauma zones, what's your take on it then? What's your take on, because I've not heard you speak before, what's your take on Trump? What's your take on what Iran is doing? What's your take on the fact that we're all paying increased fuel prices? Do you believe Trump is making money on this? Yeah. What do you think's going on?
No, absolutely. I agree with what you were saying about in terms of making money off of the suffering and basically prolonging all of this kosher theater. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just gigantic kosher theater for the people. He is making money off of this, and it's only a matter of time for things to kick off again. And maybe I misunderstood what you were saying. I stand corrected. If you don't agree with this sentiment, that's fantastic. It's great to see people be able to call out a lie for what it is when we can see what's happened on the ground, you know. Even though the blast damage assessments have been incredibly limited. I do agree with you. I think that they're making a lot of money off this. It's only a matter of time before things become incredibly kinetic again. But that was all I wanted to say. I apologize if I misunderstood or was not correct, but you're good. I think I've just seen my fair share since the last 2.5 months of just straight up Fox News propaganda being spread around as if, you know, you take this information from the government and you believe it as source. I think I've gotten so much of that shoved in my head and my face over the last couple months that I think I misunderstood what he was trying to say. So I apologize.
No, you haven't misunderstood. Trauma zones. Manco does literally do. He does believe in Trump. He does see what Trump says. He believes that America has the right to do what it's doing. And so he does have a different perspective. And that's what I was saying to you. But it's just that on our space, we will have. Cyrus has very heated debates with people. But just don't do name calling is what I was trying to say. So you're welcome to disagree. And Manco does believe all the propaganda. Like sometimes literally when he speaks, I think, oh my God, this is Fox News. I'm watching Fox News in London.
No, I think that was my problem.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But Thomas, let me ask you something. Were you a Trump voter? Did you vote Trump?
No, not at all. I've been independent since I left the military 10 years ago.
Oh wow, you're in the military. So did you serve in any of these foreign wars?
I was. I did Iraq and Afghanistan a handful of times, but I bailed in 2016 once my final contact was ended.
Thank you for your service, man.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, it's a very, very strange position to be in, watching this from the other side of the map this time, because I was, of course, on the receiving end, where I was unable to get information from other sources besides where the government was telling us about Iraq or Afghanistan or about our operations there. So, yeah, it's very strange watching all this from the other side of the table now, and yeah, it's caused me to really call into question a lot of the things that I was told about the global war on terrorism and about America's role in the world. Yeah.
That was going to be my next question to you, that when you look back at what they said about Iraq, and when I say they, I mean the UK government as well, we were, toe to toe with you on that. WMDs and everything, the war on terror, our government's lied to us, right?
Absolutely, and that's the track record, is that if you go back through and you look at the points that we were all sold repeatedly about Iraq and Afghanistan, we were all repeatedly sold a bill of lies that did not at all match the reality of what was happening on the ground there. And not many people got to really find out why exactly, because all those routes of travel and those investigations were slowly but surely shut down, and then everything was just shut up. So trying to understand or trying to believe what the government tells me now compared to what I learned for myself were complete lies throughout the global war on terrorism. It's caused me to really look elsewhere for information instead of just believing what CNN, Fox News, and the Department of Defense have to say about it.
Hey, Trump, how long have you been listening to this station, space, Suleiman Space? Just out of curiosity, brother.
I was tuned in earlier for the interview with the Lieutenant Colonel. She was fantastic, and then I thought space was ending, and then came back
Awesome.
like 10 minutes ago. But that interview with the Lieutenant Colonel was really informative and fantastic, actually.
Well, brother, I'm telling you, go in and check out. There's a library of videos on your YouTube channel, on Suleiman's YouTube channel. Please share those. There's a wealth. It's literally, I did the hours on it, and literally, you're looking at a bachelor level of hours of education in military, geopolitical, and financial in-depth analysis. It's extraordinary. So, man, it's great seeing you in here, brother. Thank you for your service.
Hey, thank you. I love Suleiman's channel. I try to post his videos as often as possible when I see them on Instagram, so I can spread the message. So thank you very much for sharing. I didn't mean to cut off Andy, by the way. I saw he had his hand raised long before I did. I'm sorry.
No, I'll go to him in a second. So, Trauma Zones, just to let you know, you're welcome on the space anytime, by the way, and we welcome your opinion, especially because you have seen it from the other side. Now, here's the thing. Suleiman's channel, what he does is he's got 2 YouTube channels. If you haven't, do subscribe to them. One of them has a whole library of full interviews. He interviews at least 2 or 3 people every evening. So today he's got Anthony Aguilera on later on today. He has him on 2-3 times a week. So a lot of military analysts and things like that, ex-military analysts. Larry Johnson was on yesterday. He's brilliant. So do follow both of his YouTube channels. Now, on one of his YouTube channels, he does all the interviews. On the other one, he has the space live, because if you're a listener in this space, sometimes it glitches as a listener. So people go to YouTube to listen to the space. It's real time live. Now, there is 2 trolls who favor me, who from X will go to YouTube just to do a super chat, just to troll me. They're my resident trolls. So one of them has just done a super chat. Thank you very much. And he's trolled, and he says, Trauma Zones, fight back, bro. Don't let Beatrix silence you. She's clearly been infiltrated. €5 for the man, Trauma Zones. Don't let chicks deceive you. So that's a hit at me, basically, saying that I'm deceiving you. So, yeah. And there's another super chat, appreciate numero. He said, Suleiman, after every interview that you do, could you please ask Manco for his thoughts? He's never praised a single guest ever. Thank you very much. Maybe Suleiman will take that on board when he's back.
Thanks,
But
Phil.
yeah, Trauma Zones, you're welcome, and do jump in. And
Hey, I'm
no
sorry for
problem. We'll go to Andy.
Yeah.
Andy, you're so patient. Oh, sorry, Trauma, were you going to say something?
I'm right here.
No, I was going to say thank you very much, y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, so of course Laura
Oh,
Loomer's
you're
already
welcome.
being disgusting about the shooting. She said the mosque that was supposedly shot up today. Just remember the people who attend this mosque want us all to be killed. We we will be told they are such amazing people. I'm not advocating for violence. I condemn violence. Yeah, right, you condemn violence. You celebrate the bombings of innocent Muslims all across the Middle East. I am showing you how evil this mosque is and always has been. It should be raided by ICE and the FBI. And then she freaking posts something from Stop Anti-Semitism. So the fact that she's already like attacking this mosque and calling for it to be raided right after it was shot up, it's just she is such a vile, disgusting human being. I mean, we already know this, but like she just keeps finding a way to somehow get more disgusting every day. It's just absolutely horrific, and it's just so disgusting. And like I'm not gonna say that her hateful rhetoric necessarily inspired this attack. Like I mean, because we don't know anything about the shooters, but when you have the Fox News and and Randy Fine and her and all these people pumping this rhetoric, I mean, maybe that led to it, maybe it didn't. We don't know, but it certainly doesn't help matters. And yeah, it's just unfortunate that, and this is literally one of Trump's top advisors, which right there explains everything that's wrong with this administration. Like the woman's not right in the head, and she's advising the president of the United States. So, like, right there. And that's exactly why, for example, they had to take out someone like Charlie because he was the last normal person in Trump's inner circle that actually had influence.
Who's
So
that? Who was the last person, Andy, in the inner
I said
circle?
Charlie Kirk seemed to be like kind of the last person that was really in Trump's inner circle with influence that was like normal, like didn't like would have been against this Iran war. I'm not saying Charlie Kirk necessarily could have
Yeah,
stopped
he
it,
was
but
really turning, wasn't he? He was really turning, wasn't he? Before he was killed.
yeah, I mean, and during the 12-day war, he said, I support strikes on nuclear facilities, but a war would be pathological and asinine. And that was in response to Lindsey Graham advocating for a full-scale war, because, Lindsey Graham loves his wars. So, like, and Charlie Kirk said, he's on video saying Thomas Massie is one of my favorite congressmen. So everyone's been going at Turning Point and being like, yeah, it's clear this organization has been completely co-opted by Zionists because Charlie would have been supporting Thomas Massie right now. Like, we all know he would. So, but they literally just, and then you have all
So,
these people in
Andy, on
charge.
that, let me read something. Yeah, let me read something to you. Let me read something to you. So, do you know Rick Scott? Is it Senator Rick Scott or is it Congressman
Senator
Rick
Rick Scott of
Scott?
Florida, yes.
Yeah. So this is what he said today, right? He said, President Trump is busting his butt. Does he want us killed by a nuclear weapon? Question mark. Absolutely not. So he's doing the right thing by making sure we all don't get killed by a nuclear weapon. I think what has to happen is Trump is going to have to go in and bomb the living daylights out of Iran. Biden left him in a horrible situation. And you know what? When I heard that clip, it is a clip actually, right? When I heard that clip, I just thought, did he really go on TV and say bomb the living daylights out of Iran and Biden left us in a horrible situation? There are Americans who will hear that and think, yeah, it's Biden's fault. It's the Dems. It's the Dems.
It's both
You know what
parties
I
and the
mean? And
Zionists' fault. It's all of their fault. I mean, you had Bush and his wars, you had Obama in Syria and Libya, you had Biden funding the genocide in Gaza, and then now you have Trump doing this. It's all of their fault. They're all guilty. They're all serve the Zionists. It's all of their faults. So it's not one party or the other, and that's what we need to break out of. People need to realize we need to elect anti-Zionists on both sides of the aisle, which is why they've pumped in over $20 million in APAC and Israeli money and from Mary Adelson and all that to beat him because they're so terrified of even one voice speaking out because they know if he can go against Trump and win, it might encourage other people to start running, other people to speak out. Like, I think if Massey wins this race, I think you're going to have some Republicans speak out against this war that weren't before and be like, hey, Trump, you need to end this. We're going to lose the midterms with these prices. Like, what are you doing? I'm in a swing district. I'm going to lose my seat because of you. Like, get your act together.
Yeah, he won't care, Andy. He's not in for anybody else. He really
I know
isn't.
he won't
Like, I
care, but it
can't
will at
stress
least
this
be
point
good
enough.
to see Republicans speaking up against it, and so Trump can't pretend that, oh, the entire party's unified. When yeah, maybe the Zionists, and even if the Republicans aren't against the war because they don't have morals, you might at least have some speak up because at least they care about their own job, not maybe because they have any moral integrity. But I think if Massey wins, you are going to see a few representatives speak up. Like there's been all these reports and articles where it's say privately Republicans want this to wrap up because they know it's going to hurt them for the midterms, but Republicans are obviously terrified of Trump and him going at them on Truth Social. Like they need to just grow his spine and stand up to him. Like Tucker stood up to Trump, he's fine. Candace stood up to Trump, she's fine. Nick Fuentes stood up to Trump, he's doing fine. Of all these other right wing influencers that have said, "Hey Trump, you betrayed us," and they're doing fine. They're doing absolutely fine. So I think more congressmen need to grow a spine on the Republican side and say, "Hey, enough of this." Even if it's just because they're trying to save their own ass and not because they have any moral integrity, at least it would just show people like, "Hey, enough's enough. Like the support for this is collapsing further." I think I saw something, a new poll came out. 65% of Americans have an unfavorable view of how Trump's handling the war. And then Trump's like, "Oh, I don't care about poll numbers." I mean, yeah, of course he doesn't. It's about enriching himself and what Israel wants. And you're right. I really don't know what Trump's doing at this point. I really thought this was going to resume by now. So I'm just wondering if honestly he has some delusion where if the economic pain gets bad enough, then the American people in his like demented mind will blame Iran for it instead of him, and then we'll start supporting the war. But I just don't see that because 60% of Americans have an unfavorable view of Israel already. So you're never going to get support for this war above 40% just on that pretext alone.
Well, Andy, whenever you're looking at polls having to do with Trump, you basically should only be looking at like the Republican side of things, because when you look at the Democrat side, they're going to be completely against Trump no matter what the question is. As soon as they hear the word Trump, they get triggered, their TDS comes out, and it doesn't really matter. Like they don't care about the issue beyond that. All they are like, "Oh, you're asking me about Trump? Bad. Everything's bad. Trump is the worst." And that's how these polls shake out. Like I was just looking at that poll that had to do with whether people think America is winning the war or not. And when you look at Republicans, the large majority of Republicans that actually answered said, yes, we've either already won or we're going to win, meaning we're winning. Whereas a huge majority of the Democrats said, no, it's impossible, we're going to lose. But that's just them essentially responding to a poll about Trump with saying Trump is bad. So when I tend to look at these things, I just look at the Republican side, because what you need to look at with Trump is his base happy or his base mad, because he actually pays attention to them. One of the things that I thought was, I just looked this up, is recent polls with Thomas Massey, because there's a bunch of Trump just did like an hour ago. He did a truth post where he just went all in against Massey, said Massey's the worst congressman. We got to get rid of him. You got to vote him out. I guess the primaries tomorrow. And so I looked up, and in the prediction markets, Massey's numbers have tanked just in the last 24 hours. And I looked up the recent polls from the last 3 days, and it looks like he's behind in those polls a little bit, like 5% or so, something like that. And so it looks like there's a good chance Massey could lose. And that's going to be huge on Twitter if that happens.
I see Brother Hussein's requesting. Oh, he's up. Oh, wonderful. I rarely see a request, guys, and when I do, I get super excited because Android doesn't let me see my requests. So yeah, I want to welcome Brother Hussein. He has not been on for a long time. How are you?
Good, Beatrice. Good to see you. Silly, everybody. Michael's just question. I mean, I had to come up for this one because this one was so weird. You're saying you can't take the Democratic poll numbers because they hate Trump, but then can't you just say the same thing about the Republicans, that they're just up Trump's ass and they're going to favor him anyways?
Well, no, because depending on the issue, that can actually not be true. And when it's not true, it actually does cause him to react, because he does have to keep his base happy. And the base does not actually blindly follow Trump. When he says things that are unpopular, there is pushback. I criticize Trump all the time.
So
So
out of the Republican Party, outside of Massey, who pushes back on him?
it's not just Massey, it's everyone. When he wasn't doing stuff on the H-1Bs, everyone got super mad. They chimped out about it. It was a whole thing. And so then he responded to that and he's like, okay, I'm going to take action against the H-1Bs. So that kind of stuff does happen from time to time with Trump when he gets out of line with the like doing the things that were the big things people voted him for, like especially when it comes to stuff related to immigration. That's what pisses people off the most.
Yeah, but what did he do with H-1Bs and what did he do with immigration? I mean, it's really nothing, isn't it?
No, he did a lot. He did the limit that he could do legally without having to get signed off on from the California or from the federal Supreme Court. And there was a law that allowed him to put conditions on H-1Bs. And so he said, okay, we're going to put a condition where they have to pay $100,000 in order to do this. And that has now been implemented. And so the new applications have dropped a lot. There's some reports that I saw that said they've dropped by 90% this year. So it does look like he's starting to take action on some things. But when it comes to the war, one of the things that a lot of people like in this space don't understand about, like, why is
Sorry,
Trump
Michael, just to
safe?
correct that,
You've tried to
his
correct me before on this, and I
100,000,
looked it up, Beatrix.
it's facing legal challenges, is it not?
It doesn't matter. It's implemented. It's within his executive powers under existing legislation. So even if they try to do legal challenges, there's been no injunction granted against it. So it is in force.
So when he brought it in, and when was H-1B implemented?
Well, H-1B's been around since like the late 80s, but he did
No,
this like last
like when
September or something.
The petition he filed was September 2025.
Yeah.
But when did
September.
he say? Was it March 2025?
No, so he did his order on this in September of 2025, and it started to get implemented. But the H-1Bs, like when the applications are filed and processed, is not year round. Like there's certain seasons for it. So it actually started to make a difference this year when they did their applications for this year. So that's what I was seeing when I looked it up, is that the $100,000 does not affect the people who are already here on H-1Bs. It affects all the new H-1Bs. So with them it apparently did actually make a big impact.
So I'm just confused real quick. By the way, like,
But
because
yeah, real quick, the point that I wanted to make to you, Hussein, is here's the thing. There are, like, the people in the base are willing to rebel against Trump when he gets out of line. But one of the things that the people in this space, it's very different from people in American domestic politics, is that the base doesn't care that much about foreign policy. Like the policy priority of like Israel and Iran is so low. If you ask Republicans their top 10 issues, it won't even chart. I actually had Grok do a detailed analysis going back ever since Trump was elected on like every poll on political priorities and all that kind of stuff. And it analyzed like a bunch of different polls and compiled all the stuff into a chart. I think it was like Ian was saying something and I was responding to him. So I can go find the tweet or something if I
The only
had a
polls that
screenshot of it.
matter are the ones right now in the middle of a war, because the
But
war
the
affects
point
the
is,
economy. The war affects
hold
the
on, it
economy.
includes that
Everyone's
too.
deathly
Listen,
scared of a
Cyrus,
recession.
it
So you're
includes that
downplaying it.
too. Even recent polls, even during the war, Republicans really don't care that much, and the large majority of them support Trump. At the beginning of the war, they were 85% in support of Trump, and now they're pretty close to that too.
Yeah, that's
So
MAGA. That's the
they
remnants
just
of
don't
MAGA.
care that much.
The cult that's remaining, right? Only the ones that drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, no
No, it's
sensible
not the
person can get
cult.
behind this.
It's either all the people who were identified as Trump voters in the poll from 2024 or people who identify as Republican.
The
So
only people
it's
behind this are Christian
still all
Zionists
of this
that
stuff.
have a
No,
messianic
Cyrus,
agenda, and then the MAGA cult. That's it. And a lot of
you're
them
just
that
hoping right now.
no,
I'm
it's not.
telling
It's
you
zealots.
that
It's only
Republicans just in general do not care that much about this issue. It's really low on the priorities, which is why even if Trump goes against them on this, They're not going to be like, oh, well, Trump is dead to me. That's how a lot of people on Twitter are. That's how people like Candace Owens are. But it's not how the general base of Republicans are.
Yeah, the boomers. You're referring to boomers and Fox News Republicans.
There's a lot of
The
Republicans who
Republican
are
Party is
not
changing
boomers and who
rapidly.
are not Fox News
The,
Republicans. And
the
by the way,
Republic
I think Biden won among the boomers anyway. So it's not like the boomers are Trump's base.
the Republican Party has transformed drastically just in the last 2 years. I mean, why do you think Charlie Kirk was, murdered? So there is a huge movement,
The
especially amongst the
group
youth.
that
The
is the
Republican
age
youth,
group
the
that is
Republican
the
youth are
most
turning
like
against
right wing
MAGA.
in this country is Generation X, my generation. It is the people who are not boomers, they're younger than boomers, they're people who are like in their 40s or so. That is the most most right wing part of the American population. But the Zoomers, the young people, although they tend to be skew very liberal, they went less liberal in the 2024 election. So Trump actually picked up a lot of votes among a lot of traditionally liberal groups, but they still did vote majority Democrat.
If that was the case, Charlie Kirk wouldn't be so popular. There's a huge young movement amongst the conservatives. It's already happening. And eventually, even the Gen Xers will die off. So, however long it takes, the youth are the future and they're not stupid, right? They listen to people like Suleiman. They go listen to, Tucker Carlson. They listen to Charlie Kirk, so they get their information on their
Yeah,
own.
but you understand that's a minority, right? Like
But
if
for
you look
now,
at
right?
any
For now,
poll,
eventually,
if you look at
everybody
any
dies,
poll,
right? Eventually,
listen, if
everybody
you look
dies,
at
right?
any poll of young people, they skew very much to the Democrat side on everything. It may have been reduced a little bit recently with Trump, but it still is majority on the left.
What age are you talking about when you say young?
Usually in polling, they do 18 to 29, but
Yeah.
if you go under 18, it's even
And
worse.
how does it
Like
poll
the
29 to
under
42?
18s are like crazy.
How does it poll for guys your age, 29 to 42? Because
When they do
I'm
like
a
30 to 49,
yeah,
that tends to be the most Republican, like the
exactly.
most right wing
Because people get more
demographic.
conservatives as they get older. They start to understand that the world is not made up of fairy tales and angels, and they start voting with their pocketbook. I think that's what the phenomena shows.
Yeah, I mean,
And
definitely
I gotta
people
say, I
do
have to
become
agree.
more
I
economically
don't think most
conservative once
Americans,
they have to
Andy.
pay taxes.
I don't think most Americans do care about the war. I think it's kind of like, yeah, we do that. We don't care. We don't want to look at it. Whatever. I think that's fair, Cyrus. I do think that both sides don't really give a toss about this war. They will when they see gasoline at 5.14. I'm a little surprised more people aren't bitching about it already.
Also, when they're drafted to go and actually fight the war, and their sons and
That
daughters
nobody thinks
die
that's going to happen.
and come back in coffins, then they care, I guess.
So I just want to read this super chat, and it says from AJ, appreciate the support. It says, I really believe that Israel's Mossad and our CIA, AJ's American, are planning a false flag attack during the World Cup to garner support for their illegal war. Now, there are many people that think this will get kinetic again at some point, right? The analysts that Suleiman interviews, people that come up on the space. Andy, you mentioned the World Cup. When is the World Cup?
I believe it starts June 11th or June 12th. And yeah, I think they could do a false flag then, because let's say they do a false flag, say it's Iran, and then they get some German, French, and British football fans, well, we call it soccer here, killed. You guys call it football there across the pond. But let's say they then get some of them killed.
I know the correct name is football. We designed it.
Yeah, but let's say they do a
Yeah,
false flag,
football.
blame it on Iran, and get some French, German, British fans killed. Then they could say, "Oh my God, this was an attack against all these countries," and then they'll try to use that to drag them into the war. And Keir Starmer or whoever is going to end up being in charge at that point wants an excuse to get into the wars. I mean, Britain is fully occupied, and then they'd use that as their justification to join the U.S. in the war. And the U.S. thinks, okay, if we get the U.S. and their couple Navy ships in, that will tip the balance of power in our favor, and it just simply won't. I mean, Germany, I think, already said, what ships can we offer to change this that the U.S. doesn't already have? Like, this isn't World War II anymore, where the Royal Navy is a world-class fighting force. It just simply is not.
Yeah, do you know what, Gary? I don't know if it will get kinetic again. I think that It might be during the World Cup, you know, at a high. Who knows, basically. So when you talk about the fact that a lot of people, you're surprised people aren't more angry, I agree. But I think people aren't aware. I think they think the Iran war happened somewhere out there, you know, and it's over almost. Nothing's happening with that. And, you know, fuel prices are just going up because there's austerity and the cost of living and things. I don't think the average person who goes to work morning till evening, is not on social media, has actually connected the dots as to what our governments are doing to us. Okay. The UK is complicit in this. We've used our bases to set American bombers. We've done everything. I mean, I don't care what Keir Starmer says. We know he's up to his eyeballs in this. So I think people aren't aware. Now, it could be that to get the support for this quote unquote war, they do a false flag during the World Cup, or it could be that they use the hype of the World Cup or some big event to quietly announce the Iran deal, literally to save face and just hope that it gets kind of, you know, swept under the
I think
carpet,
the problem
so to
we're running
speak.
into right now, though, is that in order to get an Iran deal, you have to have everybody willing to do a deal. And it seems like there's always a party that's like, yeah, we're out now. I mean, I just don't see a lot of incentives for Iran to
Both
start.
sides are super far apart. Like,
Exactly.
I don't think there's any area of agreement.
Exactly, dude. I mean, someone's going to have to humble themselves or get the fuck beat out of them. Well, that is being humbled. But I just don't see how this ends without somebody being humiliated and by, you know, kinetic warfare. I it's near impossible for me to see how this gets resolved.
Could you see Trump doing something like agreeing to lift oil sanctions on Iran, but saying, but as a condition of these sanctions being lifted, you have to sell this oil in dollars, something like that, so that he could spin it as a kind of win in some way?
I think that trade's come and gone. I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they need to either. Why would they cut their options off to other markets?
And it's not
And
enough.
Iran,
It's not enough of a victory either. You know, like that's not a big W to be like, oh, they got some oil deals denominated in dollars that are usually denominated in dollars anyway, right?
they
So
don't want
it's
them. See, that's the point. They don't want them denominated in dollars. That is the control the U.S. has. That's exactly why they're. I do think there's some troll in this Bitcoin thing. Uh, you know, it's just it is out of character for Iran. Hey, come here. It's out of character, you know, for them to advertise a move. They're not like us. Um, you know, they're not braggadocio, and so I just think it's a very interesting. To me, the message is, hey, this world is moving on, USA, and you guys aren't keeping up with it. Like the market is going to trade. It's going to trade with whoever it wants, how it wants, when it wants, and it's going to do so like all fair players. Like you're not going to get penalized by one player on the monopoly board. I mean,
Yeah,
imagine if France just said,
You know
"Hey,
what?
listen, any American coming to France, we want to seize all your assets." I mean, that's crazy, right? That's what's been happening.
Yeah, but you know what, Gary, when you say that the two sides are far off, I just don't see it that way. I feel like this is just a pantomime. And in essence, Trump is just stretching this out long enough for Iran to put this into place. And that's part of the whole agreement. I just don't know if it will go kinetic again, to be honest. And I think that he'll just quietly announce something and then that's it. He will literally just quietly announce something and then that's it. And it'll be at a time when the world is focused and looking somewhere else. And it could be a false flag. It could be something else. It could
I
be
would have been.
the World Cup. It could be a
I
big
think your
event.
case would hold more water had Trump come back with anything from China, just anything. Like what I didn't need to hear is, oh, now Putin's going. He's already got cars there. He's got equipment there, and he's getting ready to go visit China. So I mean, this is like, wow, a lot of people are going to see the Chinese, paying homage. Um, this is quite the little game that's going on. It's just the
Yeah, Beatrice.
restructuring of the chessboard. You can't do it without disrupting some players and some pieces. And let's be
Beatrix, for
honest.
your theory hold true, Iran has to be in collusion with the United States. I mean, this is a real contest going on, and it's intolerable for the U.S. to see Iran toll it. I mean, the whole contest here is that the U.S. does not want to concede the Persian Gulf to Iran and have a huge strategic, embarrassing loss. That's why there's a holdup. Trump doesn't want to attack because it would, set the world in a tailspin, and also he doesn't want to back out because if he backs out, Iran's going to start tolling the strait, and so
But
they're not working
Cyrus,
together.
Cyrus, wait. He's already put the world in a tailspin, and I don't think it's Iran colluding with America. I think it is what Gary alluded to. I think it's China pulling all the strings. China's got all the chess pieces. And I actually think there's nothing that Trump can do about it. And there's nothing Trump wants to do about it. When you just do not move, when you just get that Trump is doing this for his personal gain and he's earned billions from this, he has been selected to deliver on this, to do this job. Everything he says and does is a pantomime. That lieutenant colonel that Suleiman interviewed, she said during her interview, she couldn't get the words, she couldn't remember the exact words, but she reminded us of that post that he did. Oh, maybe the new Ayatollah and I will share the proceeds from the Strait of Hormuz. He did that post. You remember? He actually did that post. And that was very early on in the war, very, very early on. In the first 10 days or something. And I remember laughing at that, saying, because he lost the plot. What does it mean the new Ayatollah and I will share the proceeds? At that point, Iran hadn't even talked about like 2 million or 2 billion or whatever it was. They hadn't put a figure to it at all. They'd simply closed the Strait of Hormuz because of the attacks on them. But I just don't believe that American intelligence and Trump didn't know this was going to happen. The Strait of Hormuz was going to close as a result of the attack, and that this plan was in place to do something. And I just think our leaders don't really care if we suffer. I literally don't. I told you, 2 weeks ago, Keir Starmer did that little picture of, ooh, you know what, save your pennies, times are going to get hard. And it's like, are you seriously going on TV telling people to save their pennies when you know full on well what you're complicit in, and the fact that your complicity has actually, because all you had to do at that point was say to Iran, okay, we'll expel the Israeli ambassador and we'll pay you in Chinese yuan, because that's all was the requirements for us to get our ships through. But he didn't do it.
Yeah,
Right.
but the world isn't in a tailspin yet. You said it a few days ago, maybe last week. You said we have about 90 days of global oil supply. So the chokehold hasn't, the ripples aren't hitting yet. India's feeling it first, Philippines, Thailand, but Europe isn't fully feeling it yet, and neither is the U.S. And people are already complaining here at the gas pump. So the inflationary pressures haven't hit. Every product we touch will be 30-40% more if the blockade continues for more than 3-4 months, because ships need to still fill their fuel tanks. You need diesel to fill up the trucks, your Amazon trucks, your delivery trucks. This is going to have a major global effect that we haven't felt the impact yet, Beatrix. So we're not in it.
We haven't. No, but Cyrus, listen, we are used to, right? Okay, so I do believe people in the UK and America are feeling the impact. They just haven't connected the dots yet. But I spoke to a friend of mine who worked in high tech over here and moved to Kenya. She's working out in Kenya. And I spoke to her today and she said, oh God, there's mass protests here today. And I said, for what? And she said, I'm not, she lives in the western quarters of Nairobi. And she said, I'm not leaving like this area because outside of the area, there's mass protests. And I said, for what? And she said, because fuel rises. She said, because people can't afford the fuel here anymore. There's been mass protests on a daily basis. And I said, really? We're not seeing any of that. And she said, oh yeah. She said, Africa's going into a tailspin because of it. We're not seeing that, Cyrus. Are you seeing that? I'm not seeing that.
There's going to be a huge food crisis as well, because a lot of the urea, I think 30% of the world's urea goes through the strait. So this planting season is already being impacted, and you're going to see famine level crisis in many places in Africa and other countries that have disadvantaged populations. So this is going to be a human catastrophe. For those reasons, I think Trump will take an off ramp. There's no military solution here. If Trump hits infrastructure, thinking that Iran will capitulate, Iran will exact the same on the GCC, and that's a price America's not willing to pay. These are American investments. We're talking about trillions of dollars in hard assets that'll be hit in Dubai, especially in Qatar. outside of that, the entire data center pipeline for investments are predicated on the GCC functioning. Where those countries have pledged trillions in the next 10 years. So if they get destroyed, our entire growth story for the stock market goes out the door. Certainly, Trump is the most corrupt president we've ever had, and he's a Manchurian candidate of sorts. But to say he's just doing corporate bidding and this is all engineered and it's all under control, Trump is reeling right now. He's in a bad spot, and it's incidental that oil companies for a short amount of time make money off of this. But when there's a global recession, demand will tank. So there's going to be less demand for oil. Everything will be more expensive, hyperinflation. All of your products will be 30-40% more. So that's why the world is not in a tailspin. When you go pay for your gallon of milk and it costs almost double and across the board, then you're going to say, hey, we're in a tailspin, and you'll see middle class families slide into poverty. That hasn't happened yet. And these are all the top economists are predicting this. If the Strait of Hormuz stays closed for 3 more months, we're in a genuine global calamity. So, we got to speak in real terms, and we're not there yet.
Yeah, we're heading that way, and I don't think these guys care, to be honest. So what happens if we're there today? You're saying that like there's going to be demand for oil. They want us to move away from oil. A friend of mine, when I was going to the gas station, the friend I was speaking to, she said, "Oh God," she said, "everybody on my road either has an EV or recently changed to
Saw
an EV." And I
yesterday
said, "Really?" And she said,
2
"Oh God, yeah, I'm the
IDF
only one who has a diesel."
bases being
I'm like,
hit.
crazy. And then I thought
Well,
about it, and I
allegedly
thought, how
being
else were
hit.
they going to get
Their
everybody to
claim was
frigging
it
buy
was
EVs?
It'll take
accidental.
50 years.
There were
All of our
fires. One
diesel
was
trucks,
in
there's
the
no, like,
Mega
there's a
Desert.
lot of
The
demand
other
for
one
jet
was in
fuel,
Bin
for
Shemesh.
hydrocarbons. Not
What
only that, the
happened?
Strait of Hormuz, a lot of helium moves through there. So that's for chip manufacturing, a lot of the urea. It's not just oil, right? And we're not going to just be able to get off of oil, right? So maybe some corporate interests want that, but the global industrial machine doesn't
Just want to
operate like that. They
welcome
can't just switch it
Lieutenant
up
Colonel
overnight. It will
Katowski
take
onto
like
the
30,
stage. She
40 years
has
of
served the country
concerted
for
effort and
many
new
years,
technologies and
and we
innovation,
appreciate
right?
her
So
taking the
this is a
time out to
genuine
join us. This is the
crisis.
very
Trump
first
made a
time we're going
really
to have you
bad
on, so we
play.
probably have a
He
lot more
thought Iran
basic
would
questions for
capitulate
you than
after
normal. But we appreciate
decapitation
you taking your
strikes,
time
and
out to
then
join us. How are
after
you?
more
I'm
bombings, more
fine. I'm fine.
pressure,
Thanks
they
for
weren't
having
able
me.
to. They
We appreciate you coming.
they probably assumed they could erode Iran's offensive capabilities. That probably played a huge part in their calculus. So when they failed to achieve that, that's when the whole script flipped, and they took the off ramp to the ceasefire. I don't think they're going to reinitiate hostilities. There's nowhere to go. I mean, what are they going to bomb? Trump said it in the last few days of the war. We're out of targets. We won. We just want to win some more. He said that. He was like, "We've won. We want to win some more." So
We're winning bigly. We're winning bigly. So much winning. So much winning. The only time I think Trump went off script was that. Remember that whole operation of going to that Bond movie kind of thing? We're going to find the lone pilot who climbed barefoot into the mountains and waited at the top, and we all found out they'd only gone in to nick the uranium, and then they flocked at that. I literally think that was the only time he went off script and thought, let's just go in and nick their uranium, because then we've got a better leveraging position, and then I can actually call the shots myself in this deal. I think that's the only time he went off script.
that's a very good assessment. I think that's solid analysis, because if he would have gone that, let's say, assuming they could have gone the uranium, he would have had a huge victory card, and it would have been very embarrassing for the Iranians. And it's funny, on that note, he talks about this uranium dust, and the Iranians played along. They're like, "Yeah, it's under the rubble that you created on the in the 12-day war, right?" Like, very facetiously, you can kind of tell their attitude about it. So these things are not into dust; they're actually put into capsules. They look like scuba tank capsules, right? And so they are not in the rubble, right? So Iran has custody of them. I doubt the U.S. knows exactly where it is. That's a huge ace. That's an ace of spades for the Iranians, right? So they're not going to be able to easily get it, and it was an embarrassing operation. I mean, they lost so many aircraft. It's a miracle they didn't lose huge casualties, but we don't know the true numbers yet. They can't hide it the way the U.S. system is set up. The families would come out. They can't hide any casualties by the end of the war, maybe 30 days. But it's a miracle we didn't lose a ton of soldiers, if that is indeed the case.
Let's go to Gigi. Thanks, Cyrus. Gigi, jump in.
Hi, just a comment on the Nairobi situation. I think it's a cover-up because they were protesting maybe last week against Macron, against France because they felt that their president sold them out to France. And all of a sudden, things switched to the protests are about gas. So I think they're trying to move away from the Macron conversation.
What was the Macron conversation?
Their president sold them out to
How?
Macron, basically increasing the collaboration between Kenya and France in terms of their minerals and all that. Africa has quite a few, as I'm sure you know, neo-colonial type skirmishes going on. There's what's going on in Congo. There's this situation right now. If you look it up, you'll see that there were protests last week for Macron because everybody was very unhappy. So I think that the gas thing is a convenient cover up to change the conversation away from France.
But it could
So you
be
don't
both.
think they've got any problems with the rising
They
gas
definitely
prices?
have problems with gas, but I think that it was a convenient change from what was happening last week.
Hi everyone, can I jump in?
When you look it up, you'll see it was a big deal.
Yeah, it could be both because from listening to a lot of analysts, they said that Africa would be hit the first and the worst when it comes to food and fuel. And this was actually even predicted a couple of months ago, shortly after the war started, like maybe a couple of months ago, 2 months after the beginning of the war. So it could be both. I mean, both things can be true at the same time. I wouldn't call it a cover up because, yeah, I mean, those regions will feel the pain before anybody else, just as they have in most other conflicts, global conflicts. It's by design. And yeah, so I just wanted to chime in about that. And also about the kinetic war. Yeah, like I said yesterday, and a lot of people mentioned it today, as illogical and grandiose as Trump's ideas are, he still has the generals and the military people, consultants that are probably finally letting him know that this is not going to go anywhere. And with the pressure from China and the travel to China and the fact that they don't want the war to continue, and the Gulf states probably don't want this either. And like Beatrix was saying, this could be his way to slowly, without anybody paying attention, to kind of just move away from the whole war and kind of, even if there is no agreement or no deal, that it would just be by default that Iran would control the Strait of Hormuz, because the U.S. also knows that they cannot continue the blockade of the blockade for too long.
But that's the issue with Tusa. He won't walk away. They can't just let Iran toll it. Like that's not how superpowers behave. Like it would be too embarrassing. Not just and on top of that, it's someone like Trump. So I think any president who have made the mistake and gotten this stuck, they can't leave the war in a weaker situation, right? Because the U.S. is substantially more powerful. Iran just outplayed the U.S. and with the technology they invested in over the last 20 years. So they made a master play and won strategically, right? So if the U.S. doesn't make a deal, this is a historic L. It's a
Mhm.
clear strategic L on arguably the most strategic chokehold in the world, right? It is oil that fuels the world, and we talked about helium, we talked about urea. There's other elements to it, so he can't just quietly walk away. What you said, I was thinking for weeks. I was like, man, how is he
Mhm.
gonna just like? I know what you're saying, right? So it's not
Mhm.
like, but I just can't see. The more I think about it, I can't see him just smoothly, quietly walking away and creating some other
Yeah.
crisis to get the attention away from it. I just can't see that. I see
So
where
you
you're
think
going.
there will be
Mhm.
a deal? You think there will be
I
some sort of?
don't. I don't. I think
No,
they're
you
going to take. I think they're going to take an off ramp as an excuse to like because the blockade can't continue, like you said. Maybe they have another month left in it. I thought.
Cyrus, you know what? You know when you say this is not how superpowers play, right? And you know if they just quit, then it's going to be a massive L. You know what it reminds me of? It triggers this thing in my head, which is like 20 years, 4 US presidents, trillions of dollars to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. That's how your US superpower played it in Afghanistan. Literally spent 20 years over 4 US presidents. And sorry, I know, listen, trauma zones, I know you served there, but it's not a reflection on the people of a country when we talk about the crimes of a government. We never, ever, it's not about the people of a country. We don't blame the people of a country or those brave people who serve in our armed forces because they're lied to as much as we are. So, not a reflection on anybody who served, but literally the government's 4 US president, trillions of dollars, 20 years to replace the Taliban with the Taliban and literally leg it with a tail between the legs out of the country. There ain't no superpowers. We're brokey countries, Cyrus. You know, the UK may think it's a frigging superpower and America, we ain't. We're brokey countries. We're really brokey. We go loot and pillage and literally ravage other countries to sustain ourselves. We don't do deals with other countries. And sadly, that's the case.
Yeah, there was. I mean,
yeah,
that goes to show, Beatrix. I mean, we did that in Afghanistan. That there was nothing to materially gain from it, and we're that stubborn, right? So imagine if we're that stubborn to stay in that war for 20 years, America's longest war. Imagine how stubborn we will be in the Strait of Hormuz, right? So superpowers are stubborn by nature. It's not nothing to trigger you. We talk about all the time. I'm so critical of the GWAT wars. I mean, we were duped into the Iraq war, especially. You know, the Afghan effort should have been done after Operation Tora Bora. You know, we decimated the Taliban, we pushed Al Qaeda into Pakistan, and we could have done covert ops to snatch up Bin Laden, and you know that played out in 2011 whenever we snatched him up. So you know, you're making my point, and it's not rational. So that the American hegemonic behavior is stupid, right? China's not behaving like that. Russia's not behaving like that. They're superpowers, right? They are on a realist game book, right? America's on a liberal hegemonic game book that we think we have some moral upper ground that we're going to go to these countries and say,
Russia does. Russia does play like that, Cyrus. Russia ain't no good boy, right? I mean, okay, when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, Russia has a right to defend itself, but Russia does play
yeah,
like that.
they're all
It just
ruthless.
doesn't do it in an open military
Exactly.
way. I mean, it
They're
literally funded Brexit. It literally funds, you know, like a lot of the stuff that's happening in the UK. Who actually funded Boris
they're no
Johnson to
angels,
become?
Beatrix, by
I
any
mean,
means. I'm very
yeah.
don't get it twisted that I'm
If you think, you know, the only person in the
We're
world that can
live.
make Boris Johnson
Lots
look
of
like,
news today. We
make
have
Trump
Pepe
look like a
Escobar
competent
coming
leader,
on.
would be
We
Boris
have
Johnson, and we had him as
We're going
prime
to talk to him
minister.
he's a
about the
clown.
Like
He's a
Iran
clown.
seriously.
China
Unbelievable. Just
negotiations.
he
He
looks
was
the part too.
reporting live. He was reporting of the
so there is
negotiations
no
of
Yeah.
kinetic. There won't be a kinetic war, Cyrus, and there won't be a deal. So there's just gonna be a sort of a state. What you call it?
A frozen
Not
conflict. I think I would call it a frozen conflict, and Iran will have a hard time exacting the toll because OFAC yields so much power over the Western financial system. So Iran can designate anyone who takes money, who gives money to the IRGC for passage. They can start clamping down on them. And you know, for example, Deutsche Bank got fined, I think, $2 billion, right? So these are OFAC fines, and I think HSBC as well. So that's kind of my area of expertise, like sanctions law. You know, I worked with OFAC when I was doing. You know, we got approval and licensing to do medical business in Iran, right? So that's where my knowledge of how OFAC operates and how much they can exert influence on any Western country, all of Europe and a lot of Asian countries. The only country that has the mechanisms to operate outside of that is really China, and they get Iran's oil at a 30% discount, and they have a phantom fleet, and they barter with Iran because they produce so many goods. So Iran is only like essentially stuck dealing only with China, right? So that's how they skirt those sanctions. But when it comes to OFAC and these tolls, it's just not sustainable. The U.S. is too adamant and they're too stubborn to show a huge loss. So one way or another, they're going to make it hell for this project for Iran to embarrass the U.S. Right. So and in turn, it will still have the same effect as the blockade, right? Because the insurance companies won't insure the main ships. All these only small things will get through. The main stuff that the world needs won't get through. It will still be a global crisis. So both sides need to take an off ramp. Iran has indicated that they'll open the Strait unconditionally as long as the U.S. makes some concessions. So I think as we approach that critical stage where Beatrix mentioned last week that we have like about 3 months of global oil reserves. So that's really the maximum time limit. I think there's going to be major shock effects well before that, maybe in a month. So I think when we get close to those really, those red lines, that danger zone, you'll see Trump flex, right? Because they don't want to see the global economy crash because all their stocks will crash too, right? They need the stock market to hold, right? In a global recession, the stock market will not hold. You're going to see 30, 40%.
Cyrus, they've been playing the stock market. They're going to sell all their frigging shares before you even know it's crashed, right?
Yeah,
Literally. And then you'll wake up and think, ooh, stock market's high. And you'll find out it's crashed. And guess what? They sold all their shares just before it crashed. They're playing it. They're playing it. Or let's go to trauma zones. And then I'll come back to you, Cyrus. Trauma zones, jump in.
Hey, I really appreciate what Cyrus and the doctor were saying about how this could reasonably play out for all of us. And something I didn't really get to talk about earlier, I'll tell you guys a quick story. The doctor actually brought it up and made me think about it. Is when I went through my basic training, I was taken to an evangelical church deep inside Missouri. And I was an atheist at this point. This is before I re-embraced my Christianity again as an adult. I was taken to a evangelical Baptist church in Lebanon, Missouri. And I was basically served the same diatribes over and over and over again throughout the entire day about Jesus coming back and the apocalypse and how we needed to support Israel. And I was so blown away and completely caught off guard because this was during the global war on terrorism. This was in 2004, but I'd never seen such blatant indoctrination taking place in any type of government format, and this was my first experience. And I recall how all those generals and higher military officers that were fired not too long ago really put a really bad feeling in my stomach when I heard that. And then the letter about the Antichrist coming and fighting for Armageddon, that was also quite disturbing. But I think, and I pray for a reasonable outcome to this situation, someone to take an off ramp. But my biggest concern right now is the adults in the room are not behaving like adults. And I think we can all see that, especially with the actions taking place. And I'm sorry if I hear any of this pro-war propaganda after watching America and Israel bomb a school filled with children. My wife is a teacher. I just don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear any justifications for it. I don't care what anyone has to say. I've seen enough in my lifetime. So I'm just worried about, like, we're used to America behaving and acting in a certain way, but the more these retired CIA intel analysts and people across the spectrum internationally agree that there's other powers at play here with America's behavior, seeing those signs of evangelical fanaticism really, like, I really hope the doctor and Cyrus are correct. I hope that there's a reasonable outcome to this, and I hope the evangelicals don't burn the entire house down. Thank you for listening, and thanks for letting me speak.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sort of. Now, I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you for sharing that with us. We do talk about that indoctrination quite a bit on the space. Andrew talks about it. So I don't know if you know Andrew, you probably listen to Suleiman Spaces, but he's a veteran of the Navy. And we do have people who've served in the military. Sometimes Johnny comes up here. He's a British guy who served in the Iraq, quote unquote, war on terror or illegal invasion, if you want to give it the correct term.
Yeah.
And so he comes up and talks about it as well.
It was
back to you, Suleiman.
It was real fast. It was particularly crazy because I went to Iraq within 30 days of finishing my training in 2004. And I knew that when I joined the military that this could potentially be an outcome. But I was very much not seeing the picture for what it actually was, because I was seeing it through a lens of Zionist brainwash propaganda. I'm from New Jersey originally. So I was very much raised on the Robert Maxwell, McGraw-Hill books for my entire life. And I was sold by Hollywood a complete false bill of goods. So I basically made it, after I finished my 15 years working as a canine bomb detection handler, I basically have made it my entire mission in life to try to somehow play my part and atone for what America has done in all of our names. So thank you for not categorizing me or grouping me into that picture whatsoever. I appreciate you all listening to me and giving me the chance to speak. Thank you.
Thanks for Tom. I appreciate it. Great points and great thoughts. Dr. Michael, I just want to welcome you onto stage. Hope you're doing well. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing okay. I am having some issues health-wise, but I won't get into that.
Oh my God, have you got man flu? That's the worst thing ever.
What's that? Have I got what?
Man flu.
Yeah. No, not quite. Not quite. But anyway, I think I listened to the interview with Lieutenant Karen Kiewatkowski. I can't say her last name. Whatever. And I thought what she was saying was spot on, and it absolutely overlapped with my own thinking, 100%. Um, Maybe a little bit less. I'm a little more conspiratorial minded in the sense that I think, it isn't just that Trump is being influenced by Netanyahu. I think he's like a remote control golem in Netanyahu's hands. I mean, it's much more.
You sound like Beatrix right
insidious.
now.
What's that?
You sound like Beatrix right now.
Good, good, good. I like how she sounds. So the yeah, I mean, I thought she was spot on, and you know, the I think it's true that there's probably like the war is in a kind of a gridlock right now. It's not a truce, but it's a gridlock, and I'm not sure how it's going to break. It depends on. I think what it is that the Netanyahu and the Israeli leadership that oversees the United States is looking at their resources and wondering what they can do with them, whether they could pull off the kind of things they want pulled off, which would be to overthrow the government, get control of the Strait of Hormuz, and possibly seize assets. And of course, the other demand made by Netanyahu, which is to get the enriched uranium out of there. So we're going to have our troops running in there with hazmat suits, trying to get enriched uranium out of Iran and transported somewhere. This is insane. That's how low they would have us grovel for them. That is Israel. That's how low they'd have us grovel. They'd have our military in hazmat suits trying to scoop, enriched uranium out of their reactors and transport them to where? That would be the question. To where? I guess to the United States or Israel, probably, where they would turn them into nuclear weapons, which they, of course, never admit to having, even though they have hundreds and that they violate the NPT, of course. And of course, they won't allow inspections. They're the only nation has nuclear weapons that will not allow inspections. And then that goes around demanding other people be denuclearized, even though they aren't nuclearized to the extent they are. So it's just unbelievable how they can dictate all the terms, violate all the laws, get away with murder everywhere, decimating countries, wiping out whole cities and towns in South Lebanon, and it's unbelievable. And they get away with it. They get away with it because they have the American military under their control, and they have it effectively under remote control. And that is why they feel so confident in going around slaughtering people indiscriminately. And if you think this is a double standard toward Israel, I'd say there is a double standard toward Israel. The double standard is they don't abide by any laws and expect other people to abide by laws, international or otherwise. They have absolutely no regard for international law, and they're making us complicit in these violations. That's the other thing.
Dr. Michael, you're actually the perfect person to have come up on the space. Obviously, Massey is running for Congress tomorrow. There is a candidate going against him, Larry Johnson. Funny enough, we interviewed and he knew him. He'd served with him, and he's basically said this person was considered a fool and not respected within the ranks. Because Larry served with him in well, I can't remember what he said now. Where did he serve? I can't remember. You can see the interview I did with him last night.
Yeah, they were in
But
an exercise together, Suleiman. They did some kind of a high-level exercise.
yeah, but where was it? I think one of them was in Jacksonville, but I can't remember what
Yeah,
the
I
other one
think you're right.
was.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, good memory.
Yeah, I just can't remember. Well, anyway, the rest of it. But yeah, that's so get yeah. So that's so anyway. What's your this? Obviously, the other guy's got $20 million funding. What's your thoughts on this entire race?
Well, this is a test. This race is a test that will demonstrate the extent to which Israel, and I put that in quotes, I mean by that the Zionist network, is able to buy political positions in the United States, just effectively directly purchasing political seats. This will be a test which will demonstrate just how effective they are at purchasing political power in the United States. And it's an outrage that we have these Jewish Zionist billionaires basically pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into a local race, one congressional district in Kentucky. It's incredible the lengths they will go to keep out anybody who would buck the Zionist hegemony within the United States itself. I mean, the domination by the Zionists in the United States. They want complete control over this country, and Thomas Massey represents he represents someone who tells the truth about their control. That is a problem. It is not so much his singular vote that matters, it's his effect and his the way that his message resounds all over the place. They got to get rid of him from Congress because he is the kernel of a potentially bigger movement. He's the germ that around which other non or anti-Zionists or pro-sovereignty candidates and officials, government officials, congresspersons and senators could coagulate to create a real opposition to their complete domination of our political system. So that's what I think it represents. It's epic. It's epochal. It is a major confrontation with the Zionist regime, and we've got to pull this out.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about this, Dr. Mike, and I was thinking that this race is so monumental because if Massey wins, it takes away a lot of power of Trump. It shows that he endorsed so heavily. AIPAC spent $20 million in it really minimizes Trump's power and lets everybody know when it comes to AIPAC that as long as everyone works together, which they have with Massey, you can defeat it. On the other hand, if Massey was to lose, I mean, it shows you just the political system is completely controlled, and someone like Massey, who had such overwhelming victory in Kentucky, could lose. Then it's like I think people will lose hope in the political system. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely. That's true. I mean, this is such a major case of situation here of importance because if in fact they are able to buy this seat and totally push out the only resistance to their control of our government, then I think people will feel like this is hopeless on the political at the political level, at the let's say the electoral level. Let's put it like that, and that other measures may be necessary. I don't want it to come to that. Obviously, I hope and pray and do whatever I can. We're trying to get a hold of Massey for weeks. I've been trying to get a hold of him for months. We want to give him money and things and other things, but we don't do that unless the candidate explicitly agrees and accepts it and wants it. Because we don't want to hurt anybody, we want to help them. So the case is so severe that if he loses, you're going to see severe demoralization, and that's the plan. They want to demoralize the opposition entirely and make it look like it's crazy, and then it'll disappear. That's what they're hoping. Make it look like it's disappeared. If he stays alive and stays and wins, then it looks like we have staying power and that we have a say, and that will be important going forward, of course, because otherwise people will just figure, there is no way out of this Zionist grip, and we're cooked. I think that I think Massey's going to pull this off. I think a lot of the polls and so forth are rigged, or at least tilted against him, not necessarily like outright rigged, but tilted against him. And so likewise, I think he's going to pull it out, and it's going to be epic when he does. And then the attacks will continue, of course, from their side against him. And, Trump would probably even try to up the ante. Who knows? But I have confidence that he's going to pull it out. And this, as we were saying, this effectively means we have a chance against the Zionist occupation. We have a chance to wrest power back away from them and get a control out of the hands of quote unquote Israel.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. Just want to bring in Doc, and then Doc wants to speak about this. Go ahead, Doc, jump in.
Yeah, just agree completely, entirely as to the prediction. One thing that I believe that, in fact, is because in the 24 election, when Massey was still Trump's buddy and they mutually endorsed each other, Massey carried 95% of the registered Republicans. Trump carried 65. Trump's focus was more on the independent side. And we saw that when he brought in Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard. So in Kentucky is a place with, they're very deep rooted, neighborly people. They're loyal. I don't think that much money can make a difference in that community and for Massey, particularly given how even those 65% of Republicans in Kentucky who supported Trump must be disappointed with him because of all the broken promises, the war, the support for the genocide, the rejection that he has to consider the economic vitality of Americans as versus the war in Iran. He's more than once has said that he doesn't even consider the needs of American because he wants to take nuclear weapons away from Iran, who doesn't have them, and has promised to give up their uranium. So it's crazy. I'd be very disheartened, and I'll agree with Dr. Michael's sort of negative take on this, that if he loses, people will be very disheartened. I'm already at the point where I'm not voting. I voted for a local politician in this recent election, but I can't support seeing any of the likely candidates that are going to run for president or vice president from either side. And that's disheartening.
Thanks for that. Beatrix, was there anything you wanted to add? Okay. Let me just read this. We got some.
Sorry, I was just unlocking my phone. There was just a bit of news coming out, Suleiman. Let me just send it to you. Actually, let me just read it out quickly. So the Pentagon announced that Pete Hegseth is going to campaign in Kentucky for Ed Gallery. And this is the pro-Iran war challenger to Thomas Massey. So Hegseth's going to go and campaign. And the Pentagon has said that Hegseth is operating in a personal capacity. Okay. The other bit of news really quickly was that Trump says, this cracked me up, actually. Trump says The US will be satisfied if Iran agrees to no nuclear weapon. Well, I think that's the first thing they said day one, that they didn't want a nuclear weapon. So now that's going to be his off ramp. Trump's going to be satisfied if Iran says no nuclear weapon. And then that's it. That's all he wants. That's all he wants. This has just come in. SEC prepares to allow blockchain-based tokenized stock trading. So see, Joe's and listeners, I don't know what that means. Blockchain-based tokenized stock trading. Why, I don't know, but that's what's just happened now. Just that news, Suleiman, I wanted to give.
Cool. Dr. Michael, jump in.
Yeah, I think that might be a deep fake on Trump's part there. In other words, here's the election of, the Massey election is right here. We're right on the precipice now. And why don't we say something that, sounds like we're going to back out of this war and de-escalate. I think it could be a deep fake on Trump's part. I don't trust it at all. I mean, he's done this before and then gone on a week later and bombed countries. I mean, bombed Iran, and it's been vacillation back and forth. He's so erratic, or seemingly erratic. I don't know. Maybe it's all staged, but nevertheless, you can't count on anything he says. I would think that that's not that's a deep fake here for this political moment.
Yeah. Trauma, what do you think about that race, the Massey race?
I couldn't agree more with what everyone else has said so far. It's very hard to take politics seriously after watching other Americans be abused and mistreated by the system that we're all being gaslit by. So I agree with what the gentleman was saying earlier about I'm not really excited to vote anymore at all. I live in Nevada, and my district and my state is completely controlled by Zionist power and money. So I see this as a beacon, as everyone else said. This is going to be their opportunity to the Zionist entity is going to let the world know that your movement's not going to go anywhere. That's going to be their purported objective, I think, in the long run. But if Thomas Massey does win, then that only sets the stage for more heroes and more patriots to step up and actually call this for what it is, and draw a clear line that we don't want anything to do with their foreign policy decisions anymore.
Yeah, thanks for that. Well, that's that's the problem, isn't it? Really, about the level of control that they have. Dr. Atuso, what's your thoughts on the Massey race?
I have mixed feelings about it. I know a few people in Kentucky, and even though they support Trump, they're going to vote for Massey. So that's kind of a grassroots, small perspective. So I'm not thinking that, like Manko was saying, or I guess someone else was saying, I'm not sure, that because everybody in the base, like Trump's base, support him, etc., that automatically means that they're not going to vote for Thomas Massey. So I don't have a prediction which way it's going to go, but I also feel like what we call the base of a party is no longer so uniformed, because we've seen the last few years what's happened. Many Democrats voted for Trump. Many independents voted for Trump. And now many MAGA in that, sort of sphere are regretting their votes and are actually secretly thinking that let the primaries go to Democrats. And I know a bunch of MAGA people that are in that camp. A lot of them are in a sense of MAGA or MAHA, like Make America Healthy Again. And when I say secretly, meaning they really don't care to sit the primaries out, and they let the Democrats win. That's how disappointed they are. What we used to call the base of the Republican Party was actually has actually really shifted. It shifted during the Tea Party, and then it kind of morphed into MAGA. So the original base are the Rhino neocons that used to hate Trump, actually. The Mike Levines and the Pompeo and that other dude. I like them so much I forget their names all the time. But now the base is calling themselves MAGA, but they're lying. So there is no MAGA anymore. It's destroyed. So what remains is the rhinos, but they are sort of in the minority. Now, what happens in Kentucky, either way, we all have to wait and see. I hope that Massey wins, obviously. And yeah, I don't have a prediction, but those are the points that I think we can consider.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. What was it? Who was I going to go to? Cyrus. Oh, where's Andrew gone? Andrew just goes down. I was about to go to him. Cyrus. Bringing it back to the Iran war. I know you said about frozen conflict, right? So frozen conflict would be, if I understood your point right, the blockade ends. They kind of continue with the negotiations, and then what happens is those are just never-ending negotiations. Basically, that's what you're saying, right?
Well, I wouldn't say never ending, because at some point, if the negotiations aren't bearing fruit for Iran, especially, they need the sanctions relief. It's not this is not a fake thing. The Iranian economy is in crisis, and hence the protests, right? I mean, people are having a really difficult time. All those protests are about the economy, right? And then you had the Mossad infiltrators and turn it into something else. And so Iran needs sanctions relief. If the negotiations don't bear fruit, they're going to put in a tolling system in the Strait of Hormuz, and then hence the conflict part. Then it will be a frozen conflict where Iran is doing something the U.S. doesn't approve of. The U.S. then will have to decide, are they going to take action against the companies that are traversing the strait with Iran's new toll system. Then you're going to have a slew of issues internationally for how to navigate this for the United States, because it will ultimately, you cannot sweep the loss under a rug. There is a strategic loss here that's taken place. It's already happened, right? Iran will not capitulate. And short of sending hundreds of thousands of troops, even for just securing the coastline to prevent Iran's anti-ship capabilities, that will take at least 300,000 troops. It's a very long coastline, right? So short of that, there's no way to ensure safe passage for anybody in the Strait of Hormuz. It belongs to Iran. They've exerted control. So this is a flashpoint. This war is not over. A frozen conflict doesn't mean it's done. It's a flashpoint. It's similar direction where the Ukraine conflict is heading. Obviously, that one's more of a.
No, but I still don't get your point, because when I asked you, you just said no, but you haven't clarified your own position. So just to understand your point, because I'm trying to understand it in a more of a precise manner. So frozen conflict is the blockade will be removed, yes?
Yes, for this off ramp, for
Okay.
these long
Please
phase
let
of
me just ask
negotiations.
questions. Is it alright if I just ask questions? Because
Of
I know
course.
if I ask you a question, you do add like another 1,000 different points. So the frozen conflict is the blockade will be lifted. The blockade will be lifted. Frozen conflict is there are negotiations, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then frozen conflict is they're in negotiations, but they don't get kinetic.
Correct.
Okay. And how long does that frozen conflict remain?
I can't see it lasting
Okay,
more
that's
than
fine.
six
That's fine.
months. I can't. I
Okay.
can't see it lasting more than 6 months.
6 months. Okay, so there's a frozen conflict for 6 months. And then at that point, there's a deal, right?
Either there's a deal, or then it's Iran's going to begin to toll the Strait of Hormuz, and that's going to create a flashpoint where
Okay.
you could have
Okay.
you could have ships being boarded, you could
Okay.
have interdiction in the high seas, right?
Yeah,
So
cool. Fair enough. Fair enough. And then just coming back to it, I'm just asking questions just to understand your position. I'm not trying to attack it, so don't feel like you
not
have
at
to move
all,
back.
no, well taken.
So the and then the frozen conflict is so during these 6 months, no toll will be charged according to that, right?
That's that would be a precondition for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. And during these 6 months, it's going to be an open strait again.
it's going to be open for business.
Okay. So now I understand your point. So your point is this: if I'm going to relay back to you. I'm going to try and steel man it, and just only the bit that you disagree with, not to add on more information. So your position is that there's going to be a 6 months frozen. I mean, when I say 6 months, it could be a little bit here and there. I'm not going to be like, actually, you said 6 months, but for a decent period of time, there's going to be a frozen conflict. The frozen conflict is the blockade is removed. Iran no longer has control of the strait because it's not charging at all. It goes back to pre-February the 28th conditions. During this period of time, they negotiate, and after, at some point, either we're going to get a deal or we don't get a deal, and Iran tries to charge a toll, and then you get back into some kind of then you get back into the same situation where there could be a kinetic war.
Yeah, that encapsulates my position.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's highly unlikely that Iran allows if Iran was to do that, that'd be the biggest failure by Iran to essentially give away the control of the
But
Strait
they
of
can
Hormuz.
reassert anytime. It's not as if they can literally in an instant notice go back to asserting control. So this would
Yeah,
be.
yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I still think it's a horrible decision. That you basically have something in your grips, and without receiving any concessions, you just open it up. But anyway, let's see. That's an interesting position. Now I understand your point quite clearly. Andrew, you're just about to unmute your mic.
Yeah, that I agree, Suleiman. Right now, we all agree. I know we all agree. Iran is in the driver's seat. I mean, well, except for Mango. I mean, Iran won the war. It's done. It's finished with the first round, if you want to call it that. They are now in the driver's seat. They have total control of that strait. They have the world by the short hairs. And only a fool would argue with that. I mean, anyone that would argue with that would have to be either a part of it, the false narrative, one of the Ziles, I mean, of course, or totally psyop by Fox News, a Mango type to come in on that. But to be realistic and to be totally objective, to be totally honest and truthful, all we have to do, again, I say, look in the rearview mirror. We have history. We have all the evidence. It's done, over. So here we are going along, and as Beatrice very clearly laid out, we all know the wealthy elite, uber elite, the all of these new oligarchs, the tech oligarchs, are making billions. The oils are making the wealthy are getting richer, the poor are getting poor. They're going to suck this dry. They're going to do it to the last little drop, and then they're going to have to let stuff go. And to work out, I believe, will be a deal, and that will have to be Trump finding an off ramp. But I do. And Suleiman, I'm getting embarrassed here. The more we go into this, I thought we'd already see kinetic activity, military action by blowing some stuff up days ago. But I don't think that's over because I know that Trump's not going to totally walk away from this. He's going to have to do something because there's going to be so much pressure on him. He's going to have to do something, but it won't be a massive ground invasion. That's impossible. But it'll be something blowing up some stuff. And but I think they're going to go around and around on that. Other than that, yeah, we're in a terrible dilemma here. I love the way these analysts that you interview are all saying the same thing. Larry Johnson said some very disturbing things on this. He said, "Hey, we're now getting to the point where it's now and who was it? I think it was." I can't remember. One of the analysts said that we're now at the point where there's really no off ramp for Trump at this point. So I don't know what he's going to have to wait for to do this. He's going to have to blame. I believe, like what Beatrice was saying. Hey, the Pope. Maybe he'll bring in the Pope or something. But yeah, I'll just land it there. We're in a mess here on this.
Well, great points up until you said Beatrix said, and I was like, completely weakened your argument. Immediate straw man.
Did I say?
Immediate fallacy. It's the Beatrix fallacy. You use the Beatrix. Okay, a new one. I just created a new one. It's called the Beatrix fallacy. So whichever statement you make, if you then try and credit Beatrix, that entire point ends up being weak. It's the Beatrix fallacy.
Could I say the B? Could I say the B concept or the B?
That's still the Beatrix fallacy.
I'm literally like a Miss Nostradamus on this space. What are you talking about, Suleiman?
You're what?
Nostradamus.
Oh, you're a pagan. Jokes. Actually, you don't even know if you was. I just said that for the bands. Okay, so putting aside the Beatrix fallacy, Andrew, what do you think about what's his name again? Cyrus's thesis. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? What he said?
Yeah, I like what Cyrus. I'm with him on that, but I just really can't buy into Iran saying, "Hey, listen, we'll open it back up again." No, they can't at this point. I agree with you, Sullivan. Iran already has. They can't give up what they have, and I can't see them doing that. Because as I said, when they're in the driver's seat, when they have the control, they paid with dear blood. They paid with their blood. They're not going to give that up, and they shouldn't. And I hope they don't. And I don't believe they will give that up. They will have absolute control. And even after the deal ultimately is worked out, and I get a lot of pushback on this. There's never been in the history of mankind ever a war that's continued nonstop until for infinity. On this timeline, there will be ultimately a deal. I saw this in Vietnam. I remember vividly going through that whole thing from 18 years old until I was in my 20s. I saw that this will never end. This will never end. And Nixon kept promising us, we will have peace through strength. We will bring them to their knees. We will bring them to negotiating, but on our terms. Now, Richard Milhous Nixon, the liar, the crook, right? But the deal was worked out in secret. Henry Kissinger was cutting the deals, and America came out of that despicably in the most disgraceful way you could imagine. And what a banker with a pen accomplished in Doi Moi in 1986 in Vietnam, 57,000 American men and women, mostly men, there are 57 Americans dead. 57,000 Americans dead, millions of Vietnamese dead. Everything was fixed with a pen. They signed on to the IMF. Nah, man. No, this is. I'm not going to be quiet on this one. I lost my son. For those that are new to this, in this fake war, I buried good men in this fake war, and weapons of mass destruction. No, we got to speak out. This is idiotic. Iran won the war. America needs to get their ass out of the Persian Gulf and those bases. It's already happened. The Fifth Fleet is gone. And for any imbecile to say, "Oh, America's got its presence there," no, we do not. In fact, when the United States Navy put the Fifth Fleet in the Persian Gulf, I remember speaking out loud, like, "You got to be kidding me. We put our base inside of a fishbowl. We put our base inside where it's basically, there's no way to have control of it. Wherever you build a military presence, you have to have control of that." Well, okay, we had air superiority back then, but quickly, by even the early 2000s, our military superiority and the air superiority had changed drastically. And we were way behind the power curve. Military, and and I'm all about naval warfare, submarine warfare especially. We never had control of that strait. We never had control of the Persian Gulf. Our submarine fleet, our submarines are the most advanced, the most powerful. We have the most powerful Navy in the world, but we can't fight in there. So what do we won't win that. So it's already done. So we have our blockade, but the blockade, we could use our blockade extremely effectively. We could start dropping ships left and right. In fact, and I'll say this again, one fast attack submarine, we could just start dropping targets every day, drop 4, 5, and 6, reload, drop more targets. But guess what? Again, Iran is in the driver's seat. We start dropping targets and cargo ships and taking and seizing tankers. Guess what? Iran's like, okay, the strait's still closed. You haven't opened the strait up yet. And now we've lost the fertilizer. We've talked about this. And now we're going to see famine, global famine hitting Africa. It'll spread to Asia. Then we'll see it spread into Europe. And then when it starts affecting Americans, then they're going to start saying, okay, we still have the strait closed. So you want to sink some more ships? We have no win here other than to concede and take the L and realized America is in derision, and so is National Zionist Israel. Derision is a big word. It means open shame. We are in open shame because we have this global dominance and perpetuating the loss of lives and slaughtering innocent lives off of the mighty dollar. And those days are gone, thank God. And we're seeing a new global polarity, and that's what happened in China. People don't want to realize it, but that's what happened in China. Trump acquiesced to the new world order, and he's working in it very well and making a lot of money out of it, by the way. So I'll stop rambling here, Suleiman, but thank God for God bless you and Beatrice and all that are fighting a good fight in this moral resistance. And it's really sad to say for these Americans that think that God bless America. No, God will not be mocked. God's not going to bless a nation that slaughters innocent men, women, and children, and men, women, and children, civilians like that. No, God doesn't bless that. No. And if I hear someone say, "Oh, national Israel, God bless Israel," no, God doesn't bless that. That's a mockery. In fact, if anyone says God bless Israel and we God bless America in this action, then they have to stand before God. And I'm not going to go into all that stuff, but I will just land right here. In this moral resistance, we are the moral resistance against the Epstein class, the axis of evil. It's not about American versus Iranian. It's not about Muslim versus Christian. It's about the evil versus good, good versus evil. That's what it comes down to. So make sure all of us know what side we stand on. Love you all. Keep fighting the good fight.
Thanks, Andrew. You know, when you say America needs to get the hell out of the Strait of Hormuz, right? What comes to my mind is, let's just say we're on what, day 80 now. I keep having to look at Suleiman's title heading for his face to realize how many.
80 days.
Yeah, I just have to keep looking just to check how many days it's been, but it's 80 days. Let's say they'd got themselves out the Strait of Hormuz even 20 days ago. What would that mean? And this is just my thought process I'm sharing with you, that ships would try to go through the Strait of Hormuz. But Iran hasn't got all its protocols. 20 days ago, Iran wouldn't have had all its protocols set up. So I think the reason for the double blockade, I really do, is just to give Iran time to have everything set up. And once it's set up, then Trump will say, well, they've agreed to no nukes. I got victory. I wanted to make sure the world is going to be a safer place without those terrorists having nukes. And they've said they're not going to have nukes. We won. We convinced them. We pressured them. We bombed them. We destroyed their navy. It's at the bottom of the sea. We destroyed their leadership. We destroyed the army. Everything has been telling us for 80 days. And they're not going to have any nukes, so the world is a safer place. Look what I did for the people in the world. That's what's going to happen. But it's just leaving it long enough to get all their protocols set up. They've literally got a Twitter page, official Twitter page today. Crazy times.
Wow. I can really see that playing out. I really can. But you don't see any kinetic military intervention at all down the road, Beatrice, that at all?
I just don't. I really don't. To be honest with you, I just don't see it happening. And I know that all the analysts that Suleiman's interviewed, I can't think of one who would agree with me. They're all saying there will be something that happens. I just don't see it. I think Trump's getting paid as long as he carries on getting paid and, he's ticking the boxes. I just don't see him attacking Iran again. I just don't see it happening. I know what Manco said earlier, that the GCC have asked him not to because they need to get their interceptors. I mean, that just sounds crazy to me, to be honest. That's just not the case.
Yeah, but we're not saying when we say military intervention, other than I think as Professor Pape was saying, he thinks there's really going to be pretty full scale attack invasion. But otherwise, most are saying, and like Anthony Aguilar, what I'm saying, we will see something where it's that where Trump can take his victory lap. I blew because I saw it happen. The same thing in Vietnam. Nixon was blowing up trees and water buffalo and innocent civilians, of course, for days and weeks in linebacker 1 and 2 operations. I'm really looking carefully at that. And what was happening was Americans, I'm embarrassed to say this. I remember my father reading the newspaper saying, yeah, man, we're going to blow them up. We got to blow them. We got to bring them to submission. And then we're going to go now start bombing Hanoi. We're literally going to carpet bomb Hanoi. I repeat, we are going to carpet bomb Hanoi with massive B 52 raids. People actually believe that. And I remember the folks saying, well, that really sucks. We got to go bomb Hanoi. But if that's what brings them to the peace table and where they completely surrender, then let's do it. And I remember thinking, I was 18, 19 years old, thinking, damn, man, that's getting pretty severe. But did it happen? No. It was always the talk, the rhetoric. But at the meantime, they were blowing stuff up. And that's where I guess I'm going with that. But back on Suleiman's original point on this, Beatrice, Cyrus, I see what he's saying, but Iran absolutely cannot, will not, they won't ever let go of that strait. That is their nuke right now. That's their nuclear weapon right there. But they will go, hopefully, sooner than later, go full nuclear, which they need to be. I think it'll happen sooner than later.
Again, that's not giving up the strait. They can reinstitute their, toll system anytime they want, and also they'll get concessions. There's billions in frozen assets. The U.S. has to flex before Iran goes into the negotiations. So either several of the sanctions will be lifted, either temporarily. They're already talking about lifting some Iranian sanctions, so the oil flows. I mean, the U.S. is, at least in rhetoric, showing some flexibility in the last couple of days, and Trump backing down from the attack. That is very telling that he doesn't have a strong hand. Eventually, he'll have to flex. The global economy is on the precipice. This is nothing to play with. It's of historical magnitude, and he knows it. All the top economists are talking about it. Many of the analysts that Suleiman has brought on have emphasized the severity of the calamity that could be coming for the globe. So he has to take an off ramp. He has an interest in these companies that are there. You guys may think he's going to sell the shares. Eventually, he has to. He can't just leave the global economy in shambles so he can sell out on some shares when he can just keep the stock market up and not destroy the global economy, right? There's a clear off ramp not to destroy the global economy, so it's pretty reasonable to think he's going to take that off ramp. It's just how much he can save face. And ultimately, he has to concede to a loss. He cannot hide the strategic loss. And Iran doesn't want the strait closed. What Iran wants is full sanctions relief and to enter the global community and not to be treated like a pariah unjustly. So if Iran gets that, they don't want to impose on the strait. Everyone already knows they can. The cat's out of the bag, the genie's out of the bottle. Everyone found out. They got tested and all the war games came true. It's one thing war gaming it. It's another one after a 39-day high intensity full on war. Iran coming out clearly on top. It's different when it actually happens in reality. So they'll always have that victory. Trump must take the strategic loss. There's no way around it. It is staring him straight in the face. So it's just how they're gonna dance around it. And Iran is smart too. They want Trump to save face, and they want that. That we had that Iranian journalist come. I think one of Suleiman's guests. He was like, he put it so, he put it so well. He said, Iran wants to cash that check. They've won the war. Now it's time to cash the check. They want that sanctions relief. Let's not forget the objective for the Iranians. They're tired of, for 47 years, especially since 2018, the secondary sanctions really broke Iran's back. It's economic warfare. Anyone who touches any Iranian oil money is sanctioned. Europe stopped dealing with Iran. Europe was doing billions in business with Iran before 2018, right? So the U.S. was doing hundreds of millions in business with Iran. So, these are new draconian measures that have truly broken the back of the middle class in Iran. It's collective punishment to the people that Trump claims he's trying to help. So, it's economic terrorism, for lack of a better word.
But Cyrus, why would Iran let go of their biggest winning card, the Strait of Hormuz? Why would they open it so that, let's say, in 6 months from now, to go close it and go back to the negotiation table then? But because remember, the whole idea of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran was to impose such global economical pressure that they would bring the US to their knees at the negotiation table, right? And that they would budge and that they would remove the sanctions, etc. So I don't see why Iran would be so obliged to open the strait now. I mean, why? Because they just want the war to end so that they can be attacked again 6 months down the line, then close it.
Well, they're
And
not
that way they're
obliged.
lifting the pressure. And if they do open the strait, they're gonna sort of open that building pressure, economical pressure. They're gonna release that pressure, and then why would they close it again? I don't understand the logic behind what you're
It's a
saying.
precondition. The U.S. is not going to get into negotiations if there's a double blockade. So that must be lifted. It's not that Iran is obliged to do it. No one is obliged to do anything, right? This is an anarchic system. It's what force they can implement. And Iran has demonstrated that they can, in perpetuity, impose over the Strait of Hormuz very confidently and very dominantly, right? It's not just kind of control, laying a few mines. They have multiple ways to impose over the strait. They have like 3, 4 different avenues where they have an offensive force and capabilities. So it's a precondition, and the U.S. also has to give concessions. There's billions in frozen assets, so
No, but the precondition, now you're adding variables that we're not talking about.
no,
But the
I'm not adding
precondition
anything.
to
I've spoken to this at length before, so there's nothing
no,
being
but
added.
I mean, whatever. Okay, so I'm saying, w- why should they, like you're saying that the US has the opening of the Strait of Hormuz as a precondition, and what are they offering in return to Iran? I
I
mean,
just explained. There's a few things they're discussing right now. There's billions in frozen assets, also temporary sanctions relief, where Iran can sell its oil openly, and they did that for 30 days. I think
but that's
it was
not
general.
precondition for negotiation, though. Those are the items that have been the request or what the points that the Iranians took to the negotiation table already.
These are being
So when
discussed
you
right
say
now.
precondition, when you say a precondition for negotiation, I mean, and then you add in, oh, they want the sanction. Obviously, I mean, those 10 points included that. But then they cannot agree on anything. So then they cannot agree on this removal of the sanctions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, assets released, etc.
Not etc.
But
There's no etc. There's a few points they can discuss on. One of them is the
I'm
frozen
okay,
assets,
okay,
and the other
okay.
one
Cyrus,
is temporary sanctions relief.
don't take one word that I say and then make the argument around
No,
that.
but I'm saying
I'm
let's talk about
saying
these two
all
key
those
points.
points. Hold on. I'm saying all those points that we're talking about, right? The 10 points, the original 10 points. Before the original 10 points, there were 15 points. The original 10 points, right? Those were the points of negotiation. And opening of the Strait of Hormuz is conditioned on the US also giving Iran something to go back to negotiation. If you're going to call it a precondition to go back to negotiation table, that's what I'm saying. If you're saying the US precondition is open the Strait of Hormuz so we could come back to the negotiation table, then we talk about the 8 points or the 10 points or whatever, right? Okay, so what is the US offering as a precondition to Iran? Because I have been in negotiations, right? It doesn't, if you, I mean, you're the worst negotiator if you accept to go to negotiation when the other party is imposing some precondition and you're not saying, okay, I accept that, only if you also accept as a precondition X, Y, and Z. Then we go to back to the negotiation table and we discuss these original 10 points, etc. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I covered all that. The U.S. has to concede also. Both sides have to make concessions and show flexibility. I've talked about this at length. The U.S. has to unfreeze the assets that are currently frozen. I think it's in the tune of a few billion, and also they have to give temporary sanctions relief during this phase of detailed negotiations, which they did under general license to you at the onset of the war. The U.S. actually, for a period of 30 days, lifted sanctions on Iranian oil. So this has been demonstrated. We're talking about actual things that they're actually discussing. These are points of negotiation. So the 10 points get condensed down to fewer points so that they can take the off ramp so the global economy is not on the precipice. So this is by function of the force of the calamity that's ahead. There's no way that we can go past that ledge. There's a clear fall off for the global economy. For those reasons, we're going to see an off ramp. Both sides have to take an off ramp. Everyone loses. This is a case of mutually assured economic destruction. Nobody wins in this case. So even the banksters and the global elites, they're making money temporarily off the volatility and off of this oil crisis, energy crisis. But long term, if the global economy collapses, the elites lose too. All of the stock market will crash for long duration, and after that,
Yes.
we're in a
Okay, so
stagflationary
another
period.
question for
All
you.
of the growth will stop. So this will
Okay.
be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a tragedy.
So another question, okay, so I understand. Okay, so but why would they like why would this situation slate whatever you call it, why would this drag for another 6 months before, like you're saying that this whole going back and forth until they open the strait would take maybe another 6 months
No,
to
that's
go
not
back to
that's not what I'm
negotiate?
saying. No.
What did you say about the 6 months?
No,
Okay, go
this
ahead and tell me.
after they take the off ramp, which is going to happen in the next month. I'm thinking there's no. I mean, I thought it would already happen. I predicted the third week of May at the latest. I mean, we're already in that zone, right? So I thought the pressures will because what I predicted is happening. If you look at what's happening in India and Thailand and Pakistan, I get into some of these spaces recently just to go listen to what's going on. And sometimes they speak English in Pakistan and in India. They are reeling. Their businesses are closed. I mean, I want to hear what the people are saying from the ground, and it is crazy, and the shock waves haven't even hit yet. This is just the first few ripples, right? The tidal wave hasn't come, so they will both take an off ramp, I guess, no later at the most 2 months. I can't possibly see it going that. I mean, it's already past my level of danger zone. I thought they will, avert it by now. So I'm hoping I'm right that any day they can come out and kind of they've both taken the off ramp with some concessions. Once they take that off ramp, I foresee them negotiating 3 to 6 months. And I don't foresee them reaching a deal because the same reason Trump tore up the JCPOA. It's this undue influence, this overt pressure from APAC, and I mean you're seeing it with the Massey run, the elections in Kentucky. They have just unbelievable resources and access, and they will torpedo any deal. The U.S. wants to make a deal for its own interests, right? The U.S. doesn't want terrible relationships with Iran. It's Israel that doesn't want Iran to be treated normally because they would rise as a regional power. They already are a regional power. That they've been exposed as a regional power. People didn't really fully realize it till they got tested, right? So now they've exerted over the Strait of Hormuz. Now they're flexing as a regional power, right? So this is all about Israel's interests and their intention to create failed, weak states all over the Middle East. So there's no one challenging their regional hegemony, and they're losing that battle now. So I foresee a period of 10-year decline for Israel, and one way or another, this situation will resolve. I just don't see it happening in a deal under Trump. We need a president like Obama or someone like Massey to come in. It doesn't matter whether the Republican or Democrat, someone that's willing to show some backbone and face the music when they challenge Israel. Obama did it. That's why we got the JCPOA, but obviously Trump came in and undid that as soon as possible, with APAC pressure.
How did he challenge Israel by signing a JCPOA with Iran? Pray do tell me.
I mean, Israel was vehemently against that. APAC was thrown the kitchen sink. Obama was branded as one of the most anti-Israel U.S. presidents. I mean, they were really going after
No,
him.
but Cyrus, you're talking from a political perspective. In my eyes, right? Freaking two nuclear powers are telling a third country you can't have nukes because Israel doesn't want you to sign an agreement so we can prove that you're not going to have nukes. The hypocrisy is outstanding. I'm at that stage now where I'm like, you know what? Feck it. Equality for everybody. Let everybody have nukes, or just to get rid of the nukes, because otherwise we're all going to have bully boys. Do you know what I mean?
No, for sure. It's like that. It's a huge problem. Proliferation is a big issue. It's both. It gives you a huge deterrent, but also you don't want more people have with that nuclear button. Over time, over tens and hundreds of years, it will be used. So you're right. Ideally nobody should have it, especially Israel shouldn't have it. Because they threaten with it. You're not even. They don't want. They don't acknowledge it, and it's illegal for a nuclear power to even hint at it.
Simon, we live in a world where Trump has control of nukes. We live in a world where Boris Johnson had control of nukes. Like, you wouldn't leave them in charge of your freaking pet if you had to. Like, this
And
is
the other
You're not
crazy.
the other
Do
kidding.
you know
thing
what I mean?
is
Netanyahu has. Yeah.
It's a scary prospect. You're so right, Beatrix. When you put it in those terms, it is absolutely frightening. You're right.
Let's go to Dr. Michael and then we'll welcome Piotr. Is that Piotr? Oh, no, it's Jonah. We'll go to Jonah after that. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Michael.
yeah, I mean, the other thing about Israel's nuclear program, well, there's a couple other things. One of them is that they stole the nuclear materials from the United States and then the triggers as well. So let's not forget about that. Then, according to Jonathan Pollard, they actually threatened us with nuclear weapons at one point because we were embargoing weapons to Israel, and they threatened us with an aircraft carrier that they made clear was had contained an unconventional weapon. They made that very clear. So they threatened us with nuclear weapons in the past. Then it's said that they threaten the whole world. In effect, with the Sanction option, they maintain the possibility in their own writing of bombing basically the whole Western world if things don't go well for them. So I mean they've got that, but also every dime they receive from the U.S. in arms and other aid is actually illegal, utterly illegal according to U.S. law, according to the Glenn and Symington amendments. So even the aid we give them is actually illegal because they're an undeclared nuclear power, and they have not been subjected to inspections. They don't sign the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. They're utterly rogue. So, and they get rewarded for being rogue. So that's just that's the thing about this. We're being held over a barrel by a country to denuclearize a country that has no nuclear weapons, for a country that has undeclared nuclear weapons and has threatened us with them and stole the nuclear material from us and possibly killed one of our presidents over it. So this is all pretty serious. So, I mean, anyway, you can't make this shit up.
Yeah, you're right, Dr. Michael. They stole it, and now they're dictating who else can and cannot have it. Crazy times. Just before I go to Joa, I want to welcome Silver Sailor, who is as well a veteran of the U.S. forces, and he's going to give us our quote of the day, and then we go up to Joa. Silver Sailor, welcome.
Yes, Ohio gozaimasu, konnichiwa from the rising land of the rising sun. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I'll do my commercial break. Here we go. Welcome to today's segment of Anti-War Veteran Minute with Silver Sailor. I'll be reading from Suleiman's favorite Brigadier General, Smedley Butler, War is a Racket. I believe in adequate defense at the coastline and nothing else. If a nation comes over here to fight, then we'll fight. Thank you very much. Love you all. Hi, Mom. Silver Sailor out.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Silver Sailor. That's exactly what I feel that our brave armed forces should be doing, is not sacrificing their lives for Israel, but literally just be there to defend our country should somebody attack our country. And the truth is, none of these countries that we've gone and invaded and killed millions of people across ever were going to attack our country. So such a powerful quote. Thank you so much. We appreciate you always. And from that high optimistic note, let's go to Jonah, who I'm sure is going to burst our little bubble. Suleiman.
Joa. Go, Joe.
Thanks. Yeah, I couldn't expect Beatrix to finally get my name right. You know, there are people that are in the
Oh, Joe, have you not heard of
the special class in high school.
No, but have you not
So
heard of the Beatrix fallacy?
yeah, I mean, I've seen the proof of it almost every night on Spaces.
I'll boot him. I want to boot him off the panel. Piotr,
You
go ahead.
started this. I can't help it. To let
Dr.
people,
Michael,
I am a
Dr.
man of the
Michael,
people.
somebody on our
I
panel
need to
was
let them know the truth that
confusing.
you're in special
Confu-
class in high school and can't pronounce
They was
people's names.
confusing. I was in the high class, dude. Somebody was confusing Jonah for Piotr yesterday, like repeatedly. Sounded
Yeah,
like
but
Piotr, all
he
that
was, as
propaganda.
much
But
as
go
I
ahead.
love David, he was wrong, and anyone who looked it up could see that that pipeline was never even started. Where he's saying that it's under construction. No, it's not even started. So I know he loves Russia. That's fine. I like Russia. I'm not degrading Russia, just showing a trend. Um, you know, what Cyrus is talking about, that we need to come to a deal. In my theory, they don't. I wish they would, but they don't. If they just keep managing the destruction of things, they actually don't need to come to the table. They relieve a little oil there. They relieve a little oil over here. And the big story is they're relieving oil, but they're not really relieving LNG, right? And if you look, since the Nord Stream bombing, the United States has doubled their LNG production. They have doubled their LNG exports. And anyone who really understands America was built on petrol, right? And we know that. You can just see from the time that petrol was discovered till how America grew to the size that it was. It had a lot to do with petrol. And that's shifting, right? While petrol will still be the king of mobility, right? It is no longer the king of energy in many countries. LNG is becoming the king of energy. For Europe, UK, Japan, South Korea, it's LNG. For US, yes, it's still oil, but it's going to change within the next 2-3 years. All AI data centers depend on it, that it changes to gas and not petrol, in order to keep the cost cheaper. And then you have a second hit problem, which is if oil is the king of mobility and LNG is the king of energy for first world countries, what happens when majority of Europe already has mandates that by 2035, majority of the cars need to be electric? Then you don't need oil at all, right? US is trying to do the same thing, right? They have mandates that they get X amount of electric cars on the road. That reduces dependency on oil, but not LNG. You still need oil. So now we're transforming from a world that was dependent on oil, where America controlled them, to being dependent on LNG, much more than oil. I mean, literally anyone today can live without oil for the most part. If you have an electric car, you need no oil coming into your house. You don't use oil at all, except for like buying plastic goods. But even plastic goods already have alternative ways of making plastic that don't use petroleum. So there's a change, and I believe America wants the strait closed. It's benefiting from having the strait closed. It's benefiting from striking Russian LNG and oil projects 272 times in Russia. It's benefiting from shutting down Nord Stream. It's benefiting from hitting southpaws, knowing that they're going to hit the one in Qatar. It's almost like doing the moves exactly to trigger Iran to demolish exactly what they want demolished. I think the GCC, to a degree, is waking up to that change, and seeing that in that region, they're getting screwed. They're getting things demolished under the guise that this is really about Iran, when it's not. China probably will take over that area, but they would have much lower production than they do today. Dubai will probably be the one that has the highest risk of managing this correctly, because you will need both energy corridors to cooperate with each other to a degree, and the financial hub in that area is Dubai. So Dubai has to play a very fine line between making enemies now. So it wouldn't surprise them to retract a bit more too. It's probably too late for Saudi Arabia to do so. But it's an interesting time. I don't think they need to come to the table. I don't know how they're going to fix the bond issue. But I was expecting bonds to take off even higher today, and they're not. So what are they doing? They're doing something. They could be buying the bonds. They could be doing soft QE, right? I keep telling people there is other ways around this besides printing a bunch. Well, there is printing money, which is what they're doing, but they're doing so very secretively because they're buying short-term bonds. But what else can they do? And I don't think they're out of tricks. And I think they want this closed because it helps them, because they're increasing their power over what will become the king of resources, which is LNG for the next 3-4 decades, before it's fully probably renewable energy. And that'll take a very long time for non-first world countries.
So, Joe, let me get one part clear. You think they want the infrastructure destroyed, so this will lead to the crisis that we're saying that I'm hoping it will be averted. So, you think it's going to get kinetic and infrastructure will be hit, and that they're transferring the oil flow to to the United States. Essentially, you're saying destruction will happen no matter what.
I think they want a slow demolition of U.S. ramping up production, or the West Coast ramping up production. I guarantee you, in the next 2-3 months, we're going to start hearing about Mexico opening their LNG plant. Almost guaranteed, right? This is about increasing the Western energy production and decreasing the Eastern energy production.
But
And that
that's
is a
us shooting ourselves
slow.
in the foot, though. All those giant oil companies are all Western, they're all United States companies. So, like, if we pull away from the Middle East, that's an L for us, right? So
But
that doesn't
but
equate.
but Cyrus, it's not, for one reason. Because right now, if Saudi Arabia said, "Screw America, we're going with China," what happens to the petrodollar? It
Yeah, yeah, but they're
collapses.
not doing that.
It's out.
But
It's
Saudi will never do that
no.
with the current king. They're playing both sides
They,
right now. That's why UAE pulled away from OPEC.
yeah,
UAE wanted to make it very clear that we're going to only be on the US's side. We're not going to be China and US, right? So Saudi's trying to chart their own path, and that's why they're getting punished a little bit. So
Saudi is playing both sides. Saudi it did say they wanted to be part of BRICS. Saudi did say they are open to collecting in the yuan. The problem is in a normal situation, America would go to that country and create regime change right away. The problem is you've had 46 countries all at once under Trump's last term say we want to join BRICS. You can't go open a front with 46 different countries. So what solution do you have now that you can't go one to one? You go and hit the actual thing that matters to them the most, which is oil and LNG, and say, hey, it doesn't matter what you do in LNG now. We're the world leaders. And even if you decide to go with China, we're going to be the leaders in LNG. So we're going to still control the US dollar being the global reserve.
but right now they have
And that's
control
what they're
over
doing.
Qatar's LNG, but like Qatar's LNG belongs to the U.S. system. So why would we back away from that? It's absolutely
Be-
imperative we do not
because
destroy infrastructure, because LNG in the United States is much more expensive to produce. We need cheap LNG, right? So in the Nord Stream pipeline, they didn't put the entire global economy at stake. What it made it for Germany and other industrialized European nations, their cost of LNG went up substantially. They did that to weaken Russia, but they didn't put the global economy at the brink. And LNG is for the future growth of the data centers, but that's an additional demand that's coming online. The reality is that our electrical grid, you have to burn fossil fuels to make the energy to put electricity in those cars, to charge up the electric cars. So it's a zero-sum game, and we're not making enough nuclear power plants to offset, nor alternative energy. There's not enough alternative energy coming online to offset any large transition into electric cars. It's a zero-sum game. We still are heavily dependent on hydrocarbons. You can't fill up long haul trucks with electricity. It just doesn't work. You can't fill up ships with bunker fuel. You need these heavy fuels to fuel everything, right? Not to mention jet fuel. So we're still heavily dependent on hydrocarbons. this strait cannot remain closed much longer. You know, they've certainly taken advantage of insider trading. They're super corrupt. All this stuff points to huge corporate corruption, but this cannot continue. You know, and the U.S. can't just back out of the Middle East. It would be a massive loss, both as far as power projection, as far as economic projection. So this is not in the playbook. This is a crisis Trump caused, and it is self-inflicted, and he's stuck. None of this is by design.
Okay. Now that you interrupted and I didn't interrupt you, can you please not interrupt? Because that would be nice for once, right? With your hydrocarbons, right, that you're talking about, yes, you basically said it in your answer, rebutting against me. You said that, you know, LNG in America is much more expensive to produce, so they can't have it that way. They depend on the cheaper one. No, they can make sure it's expensive so that they can continue to produce it, right? Because it's not America that decides what the price is. It's the globe that decides what the price is. And because the globe decides what the price is, America cannot afford, for example, oil. I know the price, under $55 a barrel, you know, wells start to get capped, right? Production starts to get capped because it becomes too expensive for them to produce. So if you control the supply that's in the East, then price stays up. It stays elevated. That's great for American companies, oil and gas companies. They're still producing, right? Then it doesn't matter. And it's not that they're going to shut down the East. It's that they want to reduce it so it's not as big as the West and give the West the opportunity to change the corridor. And yes, you need to have a concentration of wells. It can't be all like if oil and gas or LNG was spread out throughout the world and it was evenly spread, you'd actually have a much bigger problem. Well, actually, you probably have less war. No, actually, you probably have more conflicts, not less. That they wouldn't be as so concentrated and deadly to people because they wouldn't be all concentrated in one area. Um, it's important to build the infrastructure, and to build the infrastructure, you can't build the infrastructure based on one well, right? There needs to be multiple things supporting it. There needs to be a reason to put in, you know, hundreds of $billions into a pipeline. It's not going to be because of one well, so it needs to be concentrated. And where that's investment going to go? Is it going to go into the East or is it going to go into the West? And I guarantee you, America wants to make sure it goes into them. I guarantee you, America said, hey, all these countries want to join BRICS. All these countries don't want to use the dollar. We're no longer able to use USD as a weapon in people against people. We're not going to be able to sanction people like we did because now they can get around it all the time because all these countries are willing to do business deals with them anyway, even if we do sanction them. We need to do something. And option one is, hey, we go and fight 42 countries all at once. Or two, we just take the oil away from them and we start being the global energy corridor. Right. And for that to happen, you need to keep prices high. So, yes, you want to keep prices high. This is horrible for the American people. It's great for people who own bearer assets because inflation will happen, which hurts the American people. It helps people who hold assets. The oil companies will continue to do well, and it secures American future if it worked. If it worked, caveat, if it worked, it secures American future as the global dominant currency, which then allows Trump, who all of a sudden his first investment from real estate happened to be stablecoins, by the way, and nuclear. So just put them together. Uh, Trump's going into nuclear and stablecoins, two things he knows absolutely jack all about. Why? Because energy and stablecoins is going to be extremely important when he leaves office. Right. And that's exactly what we're building. And those two things are extremely important to exactly what I'm talking about. They don't want the straight open. They want a controlled reduction. I don't know if they have enough of a reduction just yet. If we get kinetic, I think it's going to be very short, like a hit here, a hit there, knowing what they're going to do next. The fact they keep saying we've hit all the targets, there's nothing left to hit. Very curious what they mean by that, or if that's US just saying that, but then they'll use Israel to do the rest. I think the reason why Israel's being as aggressive as it is against other countries is twofold. One is Netanyahu would be out of power if that didn't happen. Number two is Israel's basically dead if they don't get rid of Iran and all the units that support Iran or is supported by Iran, because they're the only ones that are going to oppose normalcy with the rest of the GCC, with the rest of the Middle East. And not saying that they should be doing that. I don't think they should. I think Israel's done. There's no longer a forward base for America in that region after this is over.
Thanks, for that, Joe. We are going to be. I've got the interview coming in a couple of minutes. I just want to welcome Simon to the stage. Simon, hope you're doing well. How are you?
All good, thank you. Yeah, we're going to do an interview in about an hour and go through the Bitcoin insurance thing. So after
That's going to
the
be super
Anthony
exciting,
Aguilera
Simon.
interview.
Bitcoin. I can see you having a Bitcoin as a gasm or whatever you guys call it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to geek out on this one. We're going to be talking Swift. We're going to be talking payment rails. Now I'll try and make it more interesting.
Yeah, that's Simon. That's not a good way to sell it. Be like, I'm gonna geek it out. No, it's gonna be awesome, guys. The interviews will be so fire because listen, Bitcoin, Iran, it's gonna be fire. It's gonna be awesome, right? That's gonna be super exciting. So we got Anthony Aguilera first, and then we got Simon Dixon. It's gonna be fire. Both of them are gonna be fire. With Anthony, we're gonna talk about two things. We're gonna talk about the mosque shooting, and we're gonna talk about Trump tackling. So those are the two things we're going to talk about, and all the other news that was on here. And then with Simon, we're going to talk about, as Simon said, the SWIFT. We're going to talk about the Bitcoin. We're going to talk about the Russian oil sanctions being removed again. Last month, the Iranian oil sanctions were removed, but they didn't put it in the news. So is that the same case again, Simon? We're going to discuss that with Simon as well. Guys, if you're on the second YouTube channel, I'm going to end this now and come
Wait,
across to the
Solomon.
other. Yeah?
Sorry, did you see the update on the mosque shooting?
What's the update?
Suicide note was left, racially biased, hated the Muslims,
Yeah.
supported white supremacy. Mother said that she found the note. He was dressed in camo. Teenage kid that went and did it.
Yeah, I'm aware. I'm gonna bring that up with Anthony. But thanks for that, Joe. But appreciate it because I didn't know about the mum thing's new. So appreciate you giving that information, Joe. Always love Joe. Guys, the tweet is in the and obviously he also has to deal with Beatrix fallacies, and the way he swears through them is quite impressive.